Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order and invite you to stand and join with me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Desai? Mrs. Freiberg?
Here.
Dr. Hessen?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mrs. Sandmartin?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Dr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Madam President, we have 8 board members present and 1 absent this evening.
Thanks very much. This is your reminder to please silence your cell phone during our meeting. And this brings us to the first opportunity for public comment on agenda-related items. The board encourages public input and welcomes comments as they may contribute to the decision-making process. This public comment period is an opportunity to be heard by the board on agenda items only. Comments are to be directed to the entire board, not one individual board member, administrator, staff member, or to the audience. Comments will be timed and limited to 3 minutes or less. Please note, board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during the meeting. When you hear your name called, please come forward. You do not need to state your name or address before sharing your remarks. Before we get started, I would like to just acknowledge particularly the students who are here this evening. That is why we do what we do, so I'm very pleased to see the young people here. Our first public comment comes from Johnny Allen, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening. And we need to make sure that microphone is on. That's always a snafu.
Yeah. Hello.
There you go. Great. Thanks. Proceed.
I'm Johnny, and I am a member of the swim team. The swim team has been the best community because of the people and the traditions that we keep each year. I have spoken before here about how the swim team is great for many students. This was before the trouble with the pool that didn't allow us to swim here at our own high school. With these troubles, which the pool, we have had terrible and had horrible practice times that have stopped us from doing other things, like hanging out with our friends or having time to ourselves and even being able to do our own homework. With these practice times, it wasn't just about losing time at practice. It became losing time because from the drives that we had to go in between practice, and we had to take that accountability when planning our days. I have lost sleep because of these later practice times in the practice in the morning, because it is farther away and it making me have to stay up later and even get up earlier. With my lack of sleep and exhaustion from the sport in general, I have lost my ability to focus and make well in both school and at home. These bad times have also made me lose some of the have also made us lose some of the traditions that make the swim team special, like our pasta parties the nights before meets. I have concerns with the situation with the pool, and that if we don't get a new pool in the future, then we'll be in a similar situation multiple times. I'm also concerned about the future programs because it seems to me that some of the other people in our club teams, like the younger kids, might leave swimming behind because of these harsh conditions they are dealing with. And this also would scare away some new possible members who want to swim. In conclusion, it seems to me as a swimmer on the high school team and a sibling of a swimmer on the club team that the pool situation has had negative impacts on everyone, including parents that have to deal with taking us around. This issue affects all ages in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you tell me what grade you're in?
I'm a sophomore in high school.
Sophomore. Thanks very much, Johnny. Thank you. Danny Barker, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Tonight we have arrived at an interesting juncture. It is encouraging to see these many swim participants and supporters stepping up and taking an active role in their interest and future. It is exciting to experience these moments with them in unity with their important and justified cause, especially to witness and support their revelation of the old adage that says, if it is to be, it's up to me. It is also an important milestone for you, Dr. Krauser, in that you have embraced the humbling reality that you're not currently equipped with the skills necessary to bring a victory home to this important athletic group by yourself. Kudos to you for encouraging this group to become more active on their own behalf and on yours. Even as this action is praiseworthy, it again demonstrates the reality of your mismatch with the position you hold currently. I would guess that one of the elemental issues that brings them to this new level of involvement is frustration with their representation in the process and a vacuum in communication. As a financial co-underwriter of every single expenditure that this body approves, we also empathize with this important athletic group's frustration with the district and with the board at large. This frustration is likely fueled by your completely disastrous handling of your responsibilities and communicating with various stakeholders. It would be accurate to say that this starts with a completely inept communication committee chair so wildly derelict of her duties that she has been asked to step down, and continuing with a president that fails to understand that the board directs her actions, not the other way around. And all of this tied off with an apparent ignorance on her part concerning the requirements for the appointment of committees and the required duties. To the administration and this board, please grab this opportunity to redefine yourselves as truly being engaged and responsive in the execution of your duties. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma Bates, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Emma. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Emma. I'm a junior at York Suburban High School, and I have been a competitive swimmer for 12 years. I spent 9 years in the TAC feeder program, and this is my 3rd year on the high school swim team. I'm here to
speak into the microphone just a tad.
I'm here to reaffirm our need for a new safe pool. Swimming has changed my life. It taught me hard work, determination, perseverance, and those skills all have extended way beyond the pool. They have taught me how to be a better student and even more importantly, how to be a better person. And I know that I am not the only one who has been impacted this profoundly by the swimming programs. We need to ensure that more students and swimmers like me can have these opportunities too. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Mateo Caputo, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Mateo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, facility, faculty, and fellow community members. My name is Mateo Caputo, and I'm a sophomore on the York Suburban Swimming and Diving team. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight in support of building a new pool for our school. I stand here not only as a concerned swimmer and diver, but as someone who deeply appreciates the impact of our swimming program has had on the lives of me and my fellow swimmers and divers, both inside and outside the pool. Last year, our girls team accomplished remarkable feats. They were crowned YAIAA champions, and they finished as district runner-ups, an impressive achievement in itself. This included 6 individual district champions and 6 state qualifiers, with 5 of those swimmers returning home with medals. Notably, 2 of our relay teams and 1 of our individual swimmers placed 3rd overall. But that's just 1 year. Over the past 4 years, our girls team has been dominant. They have been YAIAI champions every single year, and at least 4 swimmers have earned the title of Academic All-American, maintaining a GPA of 3.5 or higher. Proof that excellence in the pool goes hand in hand with academic achievement. None of this would have been possible without the guidance and leadership of our incredible coaches, Miranda Jenkins, Ever Gonzalez, Joe Bentz, and Ben Hassinger. And speaking of coaches, I think it goes without saying that this program was built on the solid foundation laid by Mr. Dick Geyer, who has devoted over 50 years to the York Suburban swimming community. During his tenure, his teams have won 3 PIAA Class AA titles, 19 District 3 titles, 23 individual state championships, and 27 YAIAA championships. In addition, 68 swimmers were named Academic All-Honors, and his teams have amassed over 800 dual meet wins. These numbers are not just statistics. They are a reflection of the dedication, hard work, and perseverance our students have shown year after year. They are a testament to the culture of excellence that our coaches have built, and they are a reminder of what our athletes can achieve when they are given the resources they need. However, there is a fundamental issue standing in our way. Our current facilities are outdated and insufficient to meet the growing needs of our student athletes. The success of our team, the academic achievements in our students, and the impacts swimming has had on our community cannot continue to thrive without the proper resources. Our current pool is too small, too outdated, and does not provide the environment our students deserve, especially now that it's broken. By investing in a new pool, we are investing in the future of our students, both in terms of athletics and academics. A state-of-the-art facility will not only enhance the performance of our swimmers, but will give them the best chance to succeed in the classroom and beyond. It will provide our athletes with the tools they will need to continue their streak of excellence and help foster a new generation of champions, both in water and life. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your continued support of our students and our athletic programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Dara, Spring Garden Township. Michael Dara, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm so glad to see all the students and their parents here on the pool issue tonight. I don't see them out here on these other issues with the buildings. We still need to know what exactly is wrong with the existing pool other than the size. We haven't been told any of that. All we keep hearing is irreparable. This is a $10 million starting project. And where are we going to put this new pool? With a new building on this property. Does anybody know where that's going yet, or where the plans are for this new project? And is it going to stop at $10 million on top of all these other projects you guys want to do? I see the importance of this pool with all the individuals that showed up tonight. And I understand that. I don't see the importance of all of these, the new building. There is no importance to that. We have enough buildings that haven't been maintained by you guys for years. I don't know if that's the issue with the existing pool, that it hasn't been maintained for years. We all need answers to this. These kids need the pool, whether it's the existing pool or a new pool. They're out here to fight for that. I haven't seen one child out here fighting for a new building in East York. Not one. You guys need to get it together, get the priorities right. We just approved a $2.2 million roof for Valley View. More borrowed money. How much borrowed money is out there existing today? We need $10 million for a pool. We need now probably $65 million for the East York project if that goes through. We have to maintain Indian Rock after it's closed for the lease because you don't want to sell it. It's failing because of lack of maintenance upkeep from you guys over the years. When does it stop on the borrowing money? When do our taxes stop going up? This tax is a future for all of these parents that came out here tonight. They have to worry about how they're going to pay these taxes. And you guys have no answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mikey Feremsky, Spring Garden Township. Mikey Feremsky, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening.
Hello. My name is Mikey Feremsky, and I am a junior at York Suburban. I am co-captain of the boys varsity swim team. I would like to speak about the significant stress that the most recent pool closure, due to repair, has placed on the academic and extracurricular pursuits of our high school swim team. Many members of our team are involved extensively outside of our swim team. Many of us are taking honors, AP, and dual enrollment classes. Many of us are involved in school clubs. Several of us hold leadership positions in these clubs. These commitments take time and energy to effectively fulfill. Throughout this most recent pool closure experience, our coaches have been working diligently to find us pool space to practice without a lot of support from our athletic director. However, because of availability, there have been less than ideal situations. Last week, we had an evening practice in York City ending at 9 p.m. I did not get home until 9:20 p.m. The next morning, I had to wake up at 4:45 a.m. to allow time to drive to Dallastown High School for a 6 a.m. morning practice. Because of this arduous schedule, it is challenging to get enough sleep and stay healthy while remaining dedicated towards our studies and other commitments. My hope is that you hear our voices and see how the lack of a functioning swimming pool affects not only those on the high school swim team, but a wider part of the community as well. I appreciate you for your careful consideration for the high school renovation and hope that you will support the building of a new pool. And I also ask that you please approve any necessary funding so that our swim team can continue to practice at other facilities until our pool is repaired. Thank you.
Thank you. Gina Herink, Spring Garden Township. Hi, you're right there at the table. Oh, sure, sorry. Did I get that right? Is it Herink?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. The photo I just passed out is one of me when I was 7 years old. It shows me in a York Suburban swimming t-shirt holding up a sign that reads, "Don't take our pool." This issue is not a new one. The damage of this pool has been a hassle to our team for years, and something needs to be done. Each year, the defects become greater and greater.
No reason to be rude.
Greater and greater, causing us to be left without practice space for longer and longer. However, this year's inconveniences have certainly topped them all. We have gone days at a time without stepping foot on a pool deck. We have traveled all around York County, wasting time and gas to simply go to practice. When we have practice at Spring Grove, it turns what should take 2 hours into about 4. When I get out of the pool at the Graham Center tonight at 9 p.m., I will have just 8 hours until I have to leave for practice tomorrow at 5 a.m. The damage of the pool has not only impacted my swimming, but it has impacted my sleep, my schoolwork, and my social life. This situation has also affected me mentally, as this is my senior year. For the past 12 years, I have swam with this team in that pool, and for those 12 years, I waited my senior season. I was excited to see my poster hung in the natatorium. I was excited to swim home meets. I was excited to have my parents walk me down the pool deck on senior night, and I was excited to sing the alma mater with my teammates one last time. 4 dreams that are no longer going to happen. Sorry. If you've ever attended a home meet at York Suburban, you understand that the energy fills the pool deck. The cheers are so thunderous, it feels as if the entire room is vibrating. This feeling cannot be recreated anywhere else, and that is why something needs to be done to prevent a season like this from occurring to anyone else. I do not want any other classes to go through what us 5 seniors have this year. Now back to the picture. Although I was so young at the time, I still understood the importance of doing what I could to save the York Suburban swimming program. This is something that I understand now more than ever, and something I hope you all understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm sorry, is it Mamoru Kabe? Hi. Correct me on the pronunciation of your name, please.
Mamoru Ikebe.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Mamoru Ikebe. I'm an exchange student from Japan and will only be here for this school year. This is the first and last time for me to join on the American swimming team. I could not be on a swim team in my high school because my high school divided the students into sports and academics. I went to a swim school for a couple years, but it is my first time to swim in 6 years and to be on the team. At first, I was not good at swimming, but I have improved throughout the season. It is because my teammates were always welcoming to me. I am grateful to meet such a nice team. They have become my family. I cannot imagine my life without them. I have a lot of good memories of the pool. We decorated the tree for Christmas, played a water polo in the pool, and had events like duel in the pool. I want other students to have the same experience as me. This can only happen if the pool and the team exist for a long time. Just like the orange and black meat, I want the pool and the team to stay alive. The pool is not just a space for our team. There are many volunteers and programs like TSC that also use the pool. Despite all the good that this program has given me, it has been hard with the pool being broken. We do not have a consistent schedule as we have to ask other schools and places to let us swim. This means we have had to have late practices, which is not good for school, health, and for our families trying to accommodate our schedules. Also, I'm looking forward to joining a home meet. I have joined 3 away meets during this season. I sometimes feel pressure from the cheering of the other team's fans. I believe cheering empowers us and puts pressure on opponents. We are always cheered on by the bleachers, teammates, and the coaches despite being under the water. If it is a home game, we can get more cheering and power from other students and the York Suburban community. While I will only be at York Suburban for 1 year, my dream is to be able to come back and watch future York Suburban students carry on the legacy of the York Suburban swimming team. Please help me make this dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sarah Kohler, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Sarah. Welcome.
I'll probably get very emotional, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
As the youngest of 5, my siblings and I all swam through high school. I remember going to their meets and seeing the traditions of York Suburban swimming. Every home meet, away meet, invitational, and senior meet, I was there watching them. I couldn't wait for it to be my turn. I often imagine what my own senior meet would look like. Walking out with my parents while being congratulated by a natatorium full of family, our swim family. I bet you can imagine how I felt when I learned that we would not have our pool for our senior meet. I was crushed knowing that all of my siblings got to experience such an important event in a high school athlete's career that I won't get to experience. But what crushed me more was the lack of urgency in resolving our current situation. You have been a part of our community long enough to witness the achievements and legacy of the York Suburban swim team. My dream is to swim competitively at college. It is difficult to see other athletes commit to colleges while I'm still waiting for my opportunity. But the important thing to note is every missed practice, I am not getting faster. I am not getting any more scholarship money. I am not getting any more offers. While swimmers at other schools are getting opportunities of a lifetime because they have a safe and regular place to train, to get faster each day. It confuses me why you are so hesitant about going through with new pool repair facility plans, even fixing the one we have now. And it appears you are not as passionate as we are about our legacy. I know what I want my legacy to be when I leave this school. Do you know what yours will be? Will your legacy be the school board who is supportive of a successful team that has raised Division I athletes, won state, district, and county titles? Or will your legacy be the ones who let our sport fall away? Our parents taught us that our actions speak louder than words. If you, the board, say that our swim program is important, will your actions match those words? There is no way to sugarcoat it. This lack of urgency and care has a negative effect on our swim season, my senior swim season. There is no second chance after this. I hope that one day you all realize the significance of the York Suburban Swim Program and understand that this is where dreams and goals start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Evie Markley, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Evie. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, my name is Evie Markley, and I've been a TAC swimmer for 3 years. There is many reasons why the pool should be kept first at this. There is many reasons why the pool should be kept. First, at this pool, memories were made, goals were met, and friends were made. Being a TAC swimmer has helped me grow as an athletic, and as a person. Not having the pool would be devastating to me and all the swimmers. Having practice at another location has been difficult. I'm looking forward to swimming here in high school, and using the pool here would be better than going to any other school. It's not just a pool, it represents a whole community of current and future swimmers. And one day I hope to see my little sister competing in this pool. Just keep on swimming.
Thank you. Thank you. Chloe Moore. Chloe Moore, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Chloe. Welcome.
Good evening. I stand here tonight not with praise, but with deep disappointment. The lack of urgency has taken a toll on the swim team, especially on us seniors. Swimming has been my passion since I was a little girl, but I nearly lost all that love until York Suburban Swimming and Diving gave it back to me. At 13, I struggled to find a team where I truly belonged. Everything changed during a preseason practice my freshman year when I found out not just teammates but a family were available to me through York Suburban Swimming and Diving. This team rekindled my love for the sport and gave me the confidence to pursue swimming at the collegiate level. This was supposed to be our senior season. We've all worked so hard. This is a season I've dreamed of, but instead, it's been overshadowed by broken promises and broken facilities. For months, we've been forced to practice wherever we can, traveling all over York County to make up for your inaction. The physical and emotional toll has been immense. It's not just inconvenient, it's disrespectful. The seniors who have dedicated years to this program deserve better apathy. This isn't about a broken pool, it's about lack of care, recognition, and support for student athletes who represent this school with pride. The pool did not break yesterday, and you've had time to act, but we're still left with no plan, no timeline, no accountability. We deserve better. It's your responsibility to serve the students of this district to work towards a real, permanent solution, not temporary fixes. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Quigley, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, good evening, sir.
Good evening. I have just a couple simple but specific questions that I would like to ask the board, Dr. Kraus. I realize that it is the policy of the school board not to answer questions during a meeting. From what my fellow taxpayers have stated at many previous meetings and what I myself have experienced during public comment, it seems that this policy to not respond during meetings leads to most times to no response at all. If it is necessary for me to come before you again and ask the same questions, that should not be taken from the meager 3 minutes that I have to give to speak in future comments. I would like to take this opportunity to again thank the few school board members who voted against cutting our public speaking time. This will not be forgotten. My second question is, if the outcome is that you are not being treated fairly, what is your plan to do with that information? And how much of our money will that plan cost? My third question is, if you are told that you are being treated fairly, are you willing to stop the bleeding of our tax dollars and accept that you cannot continue to steamroll this project? All these young people that were up here talking, I agree with them. It's teamwork. And you also you build friendships. I know when I went to this school, I don't know, is Mr. Geyer here? Is he in the back?
No.
No, okay. Well, I was in this school in 1970. And I remember his wife being a teacher, Mrs. Geyer Health. And I know growing up, you talk about hours. I used to work 8 to 12 hours a day, come home, play softball. And yes, I got to bed late. But I also continued, it took me a half hour to get to work, a half hour to come back. I know it's hard, but when you get out of school, you're going to have a lot of things that are going to be hard to do. And I hope using that as a team will make you understand that life's not easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sandy Quigley, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. I'm also requesting that the answers to my questions tonight to be published on your website by the next meeting or covered in the next school board meeting as an agenda item. In the last meeting, you voted to appeal the decision of the zoning board in regards to your request to go outside of the posted rules set forth. During the last meeting, I listened to the district's attorney from Stock and Leader and several board members who are confused as to why the variance request did not go through and how the zoning officer would change his mind on their opinion. What is factual but has been unclear to the public during your discussions is that the zoning person who, according to you, stated in an email that 183 parking spaces would probably be okay, is not the same zoning person that said you need 399 spaces. The zoning officer who alluded to 183 parking spaces no longer holds that job. No offense to him, but his experience was being certified as a zoning officer versus the current acting zoning officer who is a professionally licensed engineer. You requested 3 variances. Let's be honest, you asked to be treated special and break 3 rules that everyone else is required to follow. They were all denied. Some of the board members keep repeating that they see other people in the township that were able to do the things you are asking. Do they realize there are different zones? You have spent over $1.5 million of our money so far going down this rabbit hole. Meanwhile, not one thing has been accomplished with this project except an unusable plan on paper, and the test scores certainly have not gone up. $1.5 million is a tremendous amount of money, and you just voted to waste even more on a new law firm to find out if you're being treated fairly to the tune of $595 an hour. It is simple. Just follow the rules. You are not special. I'm sure the York Suburban Education Foundation would have loved to have $1.5 million for the needy York Suburban families. My specific question is, how much are you going to spend to try to push this project through? When will you decide it is too much? Are you willing to stop with the tunnel vision and trying to railroad a project that most of your community doesn't support? Will the taxpayers get a refund for the wasted attorney fees if and when you find out that you were treated fairly and you just need to follow the rules? Please stop with the Wild West spending spree of our money. It is okay to admit that you were wrong and reevaluate this entire project. Please do so now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Rudisil, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, good evening, sir.
Hello. The first time I was aware of any of this going on was the big community meeting at Wise Haven. And since then, I've been coming to most of the school board meetings. And from what they were telling us at Wise Haven, the project shouldn't be done. All these buildings are solid buildings. They can be rehabilitated and at less money. And you're not going to be busing kids from Valley View or Indian Rock all the way in and back every day. And there's room for future growth out there. And over the course of coming to these meetings, now it comes out that the pool's bad. Well, there's more money. And I don't know which school board it started in doing, but the maintenance and the upgrading was neglected. And now these buildings are wore out, and a lot of the internal structures are bad on it, but that's no reason to rip everything down and build new buildings. In the long run, it's cheaper to rehabilitate these buildings, and they'll last just as long as a new building. And like a lot of these students are here tonight, they want the pool. And if you're spending money on this and spending money on that, where's the money for the pool going to come from? And it just, I don't know how you can see just, we got to do this. We got to do this. And like the people before me said, now you're spending $1 million here, $1 million there. Now you're hiring lawyers to try and fight them variances you didn't get. Just, why don't you just sit down in a room together and talk about, well, maybe we shouldn't build new buildings. Let's explore about rehabilitating the buildings we got. That's all we want. We don't want you spending more money like this because everybody's taxes are going to go up. That's common knowledge. So that's all I ask. Just always go home tonight and think about this. Maybe we could do this different. And as far as the buildings in their current state, I don't know how long this current school board was here. So it's not, you can blame everybody on this school board. It's been going on through the years. And now the pool's bad too. So just how about thinking about it? Because most of the taxpayers in this township and school district do not want this project done the way you want to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Logan Saunders, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, Logan. Welcome.
Good evening. My family and I have come tonight to support the continuation of the swim program, as well as raise awareness on this much too ignored issue. Despite it being my sister's birthday tonight, we appreciate what aspects of the swim program has done for all of us, so we feel committed to doing our part to make sure current events are changed. As a senior, I have experienced the swim program for over 12 years. I have participated in various clubs and teams. I have grown to love the team and learned some of the most valuable life lessons that have significantly impacted my character. It has truly been one of the most important aspects of my life. Current events are, in my opinion, nothing short of heartbreaking. The way our team has been treated is simply unacceptable. At the very start of the season, when this problem began, I understood it as a difficult repair that it might take a couple days to replace, though I thought it was somewhat of a priority to our school. We lost a few days of important practice, though it didn't seem like a terrible problem. However, now after over 1 month of practicing in pools that are way too far away and a seemingly ignorance of the issue by the staff, it is extremely clear how it is not a priority. I cannot confidently say that this success will be recoverable by the time postseason hits, and it is extremely sad knowing that our efforts throughout the season could result in dampened accomplishments due to a lack of diligent action on our administration's part. In addition to team captain, I am also vice president of my class. I recognize that I am responsible for giving a speech at graduation, and I would like to dedicate time to thanking members of the district for their diligent help and assistance in providing us with all the necessary materials to succeed, regardless of gender, race, or any other factor during the speech. However, I do not know if I can confidently say this with absolute validity. After seeing how the district has treated this situation, as well as others in the past, I believe that this is simply unfair. The pool situation is not being treated with the level of priority that various other events are, and because of this, we are sacrificing our success. As a team this year, we, in my opinion, as well as that of many others, have demonstrated the epitome of grit, perseverance, and sacrifice. We have set this example, despite only being high school students who have many other priorities to juggle. I believe that it is time for the rest of the administration and the district to follow our example. Please help us ensure that the success of WISE students remains prevalent throughout all of our programs, not just the few, by doing whatever it takes. Thank you.
Thank you. Weston Saunders. Hi, Weston. Welcome.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Weston Saunders. I'm a freshman who has been swimming for 8 years. I'm here today to address a matter that affects not only our swim team, but also the values of fairness, equity, and commitment within our school community. As all of you know, our pool has been drained for over a month now due to ongoing repairs. While work has finally started, the deeper issue remains unresolved. Our pool is extremely old, and patchwork repairs are no longer enough to meet the needs of our athletes. For too long, the swimming program has been neglected by our school's leadership. Efforts from the administration have been minimal at best, leaving us athletes and families to navigate this issue without any support. Compare this to our other athletic programs, which receive constant investment and attention. Our pool, by contrast, is outdated, unreliable, and frequently broken. I can't sway anybody's enthusiasm towards swimming, but I do ask this school board to focus more attention onto our team. Let's not forget the legacy of this swim program. Generations have represented this school with pride, and their hard work has brought recognition to our community. Past athletes have set records, won championships, and have gone on to achieve remarkable things thanks to the discipline swimming instilled in them. But how can we continue this legacy without the proper resources? Swimming isn't just a sport, it's a lifestyle. To continue to train as a swimmer requires unparalleled dedication, spending countless hours in the water, pushing ourselves to the limit daily. We balance our rigorous training schedules with our academic responsibilities and personal lives. But what message does this send to our athletes when their hard work isn't matched by investment in their facilities? I want to address the voices in the community of those who vote against rebuilding our pool. To those who argue that the pool is too expensive, I ask, can you put a price on the lessons our sport teaches? Discipline, perseverance, teamwork. These skills are to last a lifetime. This pool isn't just for us, it's for the next generation of athletes and the one after that. Even if I won't be here to benefit from a new pool, I believe it's our responsibility to ensure that future swimmers have the tools they need to succeed. We need a new pool not only just for the swimmers of today, but the future of our program and our community. It's time to stop making excuses and start building something we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Samuel Schoaf. Samuel Schoaf. Hi, Sam. Welcome.
Hello. So one of the things I have learned in York Suburban swimming is that you can never give up, but that is really the theme of like all of York Suburban. But never giving up teaches us how to continue to grow and learn in this world. And in this world, we need to learn to deal with the ups and downs. In this case, the pool, which my life started pretty slow, but then once I got into swimming, I found a thing that I actually loved. And then I found some people that I could love too. Coach Ben taught me quite a bit from the fundamentals of swimming when I was just in elementary school till I broke my foot back in 7th grade. And then once I got back in 9th grade, when I saw him on the pool deck, he was eager to work with me and get me back to where I needed to be to become a better athlete than what I was then. And just seeing that how I can get better as an athlete and people actually care has made me realize how valuable time in life is and how time can be used good or bad. In this case, with things we love, can be used for good. But in this case, it is used for good in this case because it is something that I love and I want to continue to grow in and that I can use in my future and prepare my ways and continue to help other people in their success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lily Uchef, Spring Garden Township. Hi, Lily.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lily Uchef. I've been doing TAC for almost 2 years. I will continue to do TAC until I can join the high school team. Even though not everyone may think that swimming is the coolest sport, and I do, and I won't let those people get to my head. It would be really important to me, other swimmers, and coaches if we got our pool back. It has been hard going to the YMCA with it being farther away and the practice times being so late. I have made so many friends and improved my swimming skills due to TAC. Coach Alexis and Coach Heidi have helped me so much. At first, I couldn't even swim the length of the pool. Now, I get to set goals for myself, and it would really be helpful with some consistent practice at the Trojans pool. There are a lot of younger kids who could benefit from our pool, but may not want to speak today. There are kids as young as 4 years old swimming for TAC. I've tried other sports, but TAC is where I belong. I am so grateful for TAC. I hope we get our pool back. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I do believe that concludes our first opportunity for public comment. Before, I know a lot of the swimmers are taking off to go to practice. Go get them. But I do want to say, truly, we appreciate the inconvenience that this became for you guys to come and speak. So we appreciate it very much. Off you go. Thanks to the families that do the chauffeuring. I know that's not easy. That brings us to discussion and action on board minutes. I'm seeking approval of the minutes from the regular monthly meeting conducted on December 16th.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any votes to the contrary? Any discussion, additions, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they can stand approved as submitted. And I'm seeking approval of the minutes for the special meeting conducted on December 23rd, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, additions, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they can also be approved as submitted. I have nothing in terms of a board president's report, so we can move on to the student representative report. Ms. Enriquez, hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. So the high school winter portfolio display is tomorrow. Please go if you can and support our art and applied engineering and technology students in the exhibit of their hard work during this semester. Pictures, drawings, painting, ceramics, and woodworking will be some, but not all, of the art display. Those will be open from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Also, the Valley View Elementary will be held in a painting night for families on Friday, January 31st, from 5 to 7 p.m. The cost is $10 per project, and registrations are due by January 24th. A novice tournament of the Trojan Wrestling Club will be held Sunday, February 9th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you're available to, please go and support our amazing wrestlers. The National Honor Society held a volunteer association with Your Giving Helping Hands this past Saturday. Students who volunteered helped distributing assorted food and clothing to more than 100 people in need at the Rapid Transit Station at downtown York. Thanks to them for their amazing display of leadership and empathy. The Science National Honor Society will be held in, along with the clubs such as Greenhouse Club and classes such as EMT, the Elementary Science Night, the 5th of February. Families are more than welcome to come and enjoy of different rooms that these clubs had prepared for their youngest. Link your application just opened today. Everybody's excited to see what this new year and candidates will bring to a student body and to our new freshman class. Also, this Saturday, January 25th, the Daughters of Scholar Battle of Buildings will be held. Please come and support your favorite teams while helping our students to reach their goals. Finally, let's support our amazing swimming team by showing up to their meets or sharing encouragement. As we saw, they're facing a difficult time because of the lack of a stable place for their practices and the lack of resources. And they need all the support they can have. Please let them know how amazing they are. That's all I have for today. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. Any questions, anything for Nicole? Okay, that takes us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Krauser.
Thank you, Madam President. Number one, I want to kind of echo and share an appreciation for our students' families that came out this evening. We do have two items in particular this evening to address some of the questions that were raised. I did ask Mrs. Kendig to provide an update on the facilities and the progress in the school repairs for the pool. And I also have asked Dr. Ellis to give us an update on the planning timeline and schedule of events for our swim team. So they'll be sharing that under the business update this evening. So that's number one. Number two, welcome to January 2025. For those of you that do not know, January is School Board Directors Recognition Month. So on behalf of the students and the staff, it's a great opportunity for me to say thank you for volunteering your time and service to the work and the profound efforts in the school to continue to make this district excellent and exceptional by all stretches of the imagination. I do have some surprises scheduled for the end of the month. So at our next meeting, stay tuned. We're going to have some guests to visit and share that appreciation. But I wanted to make sure we kicked off the month of January with a special thanks of appreciation for the work that you're doing on behalf of our students and staff. So thank you for that. Thank you. The next item that I have is to talk preliminary about our school calendar. I did ask Dr. Lorfink to share a draft with you this evening, talk us through a little bit about the process and where we are. The idea is to seek some feedback this evening to bring a recommendation at the end of the month. So Dr. Lorfink.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, as Dr. Krauser mentioned, I would like to present the draft 2025-2026 school calendar to you. In front of you, I did place a printed copy, so you can review that and take notes if you need to. You have both a calendar at a glance and a visual of the overall calendar, so you have 2 sheets at your seat. Each year, we go through a robust process before the calendar comes before the board for review. We start as a team by reviewing the major holidays, state testing dates, all of those things that we need to take into account when we are looking at a calendar from scratch. Our entire staff was asked to provide feedback on this year's calendar, the current year's calendar, and make any suggestions for next year through our staff survey that we did this fall. And from that feedback, several draft versions were created and reviewed by the administrative team, a parent advisory council that we work with regularly, and a calendar committee comprised of staff from across the district. And the draft before you is the result of all of that work and feedback that we've been collecting. We take into consideration the continuity of education for our students, timely breaks for staff and students alike, and ensure that time is built in for our staff's professional learning needs. The instructional time in the calendar exceeds the instructional hours required by PDE, as student instruction needs to be our first and foremost in the front of our mind when we're coming up with that that school calendar. There are also 2 built-in summer trade days for differentiated staff training. We successfully used that model last summer in 2024, and we've received some really positive feedback from our staff, so we are looking to do that again. Some key dates to highlight. The first day for students would be August 21st. The last day would be May 27th, and commencement would be held on May 21st. The draft calendar will be added to the agenda for approval on January 27th, and once approved, we will send it out to the staff and families, along with an updated calendar for this current year that reflects last week's snow days, so that everybody's on the same page for the rest of the year. And the 2025-2026 calendar will be available in Spanish once it is finalized and we get feedback from this group this evening. And this time, if anybody has any questions about the calendar or comments?
Any questions, Ms. San Martin?
Thank you. So upon reviewing the suggested calendar, I would like to advocate for Election Day to be designated as a non-instructional day. The reason for this is to enhance the civic engagement for students, staff, and families, highlighting this as an important day, and also eliminating barriers of time constraints for those who work in the schools and attend schools, such as our newly turned 18-year-olds. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sanders?
So I know we talked about this several years ago, pushing the calendar forward. We've got these weird days of the 26th and the 27th. After we have a day off, or you've scheduled a day off. I don't know about you guys, but when I had school at that point in time, that day and a half were pointless days.
I'm sorry, just so I can follow you. What?
May 26th and May 27th, right after Memorial Day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why was there a need to push the calendar out into that week when I don't believe we've done so in quite some time. In fact, I think we've pulled the calendar forward or readjusted the vacation days.
No, we have been finishing after Memorial Day for, at least since I've been here, we finished after.
We did last year.
I have to check with Memorial Day. No, we do this year. We actually looked at, we got a lot of staff feedback saying that actually the early start that we're at currently is, they actually wanted us to push it back later and finish in the first week of June. So there was a draft floating around looking at that. That was something that we were considering based on staff feedback. Okay. We kind of see both. We have some staff that like it earlier, some that like it later. To be honest with you, the last couple of days of school, no matter where they are not super effective as far as education and instruction go. So the thought was putting it there. It just made sense with the number of days, making sure that we got the days in. That's just where it fell.
Okay.
Ms. Turner?
I see that you have 3 Act 80 days built in. How many did we have this year?
Let's
It was
see, I
a
don't
lot
have
more
the
than that.
count in front of me. I can tell you that this actually increases the number of instructional days for students, this calendar, compared to the current calendar that we are in.
That's really what I wanted to know.
Correct. There are 2 additional student instructional days built into this calendar than there are this current year. That was something that we wanted to make sure that we increased. We also looked at the number of instructional days, instructional minutes. As you know, the number of instructional hours is really now what we are held to as an instructional standard. And we are well over that 900 for elementary, 990 for secondary students. We are well over that threshold of instructional time. Well,
Does that clarify? Anyone else? I wondered if you could give me clarification as to there are a couple of early dismissal / teacher directed day.
Yep. In our current negotiated agreement with our teachers, we have 3 early dismissal days that must fall within 2 weeks of the end of the marking period, basically for records and for grading paper and getting their grades done. And that time is teacher protected. Basically, it's just that the teachers are the ones that have that time to use, so that us as an administration, we're not giving them additional tasks to do at that time to protect that grading time.
So I can do records that day.
Correct.
I'm not going to be called down to the office to go to a meeting and this kind of thing.
Correct.
Got it. Anyone else have questions or discussion? If in reviewing this there are concerns, please, over the next couple of weeks, we'll vote on this. Am I right? Next time.
Correct.
So reach out to Dr. Lorfink if you have questions. If in reviewing it you have further thoughts for her. So that if there are concerns, administration can be prepared for that when we vote. Mrs. Fryrick?
A question I've always had.
Sure.
How does this look compared with our neighboring districts? I mean, not even trying to use some of the.
Wouldn't it be nice to have it? Yeah.
I keep thinking we have all these days. There's got to be some that overlap someplace, you know.
Yeah, I can tell you that was something that I did look into. I reached out to my fellow assistant superintendents across the county and said, hey, what are you all thinking? You know, kind of where we are. We're in line with most everybody else. Everyone is really between August, like 18th to the 22nd, 23rd in there for their student start day. For a while there, we had a draft that was much later because we were hearing that from the staff that but then when we looked at across the county, we wanted to make sure that we were in line with everyone else, because if we're not, that causes a lot of childcare issues for our staff when they do come back that are families in the area.
It just seems we ought to be able to do something.
I would agree, but we have not gotten to the county schedule yet.
Yeah, and to the question regarding how do we potentially look to align calendars, we talk about that across the superintendents across the district. As Dr. Lorfink mentioned, the CBA, the collective bargaining agreements of each school district, drives a lot of that calendar development. So as much as we're trying to schedule that, we are beginning those conversations to see if there's collaborative measures to do that. We just haven't been able to land on a lot of those dates yet.
They just even trying to coordinate beginning days and ending graduation days is nothing short of a miracle. Right. You know, as I said, but you had no trouble with snow days, do you?
Correct. And one of the hurdles in that alignment, if it becomes too aligned, it also then becomes difficult for shared, I'll say cross-district families. So either employees or families that are shared across district. If everybody's commencement's on the same time, then we run into difficulties with hotels and things like that. But to your point about professional development days and opportunities where we can share those experiences, those are conversations that we continue to have.
Thank you.
If I could, I'd be curious to see if any of the other board members have any thoughts on Election Day. I know that is something that has come up. Our students have actually brought that up before. Some of the seniors we work with on student advisory councils. Veterans Day was the other day that we looked at after the feedback from Mr. Sanders and earlier this year. But you'll notice that both of them are on a Tuesday. So when we look at that continuity of education for students, that means then we're coming in on a Monday and then we're not here on a Tuesday. It just goes back and forth. So I'm just curious thoughts wise with the board on Election Day specifically, since Ms. Martin brought it.
Can we offer that to Dr. Lorfink? Anybody have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would love to chime in. I think that's a great idea. I've definitely heard of districts, at least in Maryland, that do that and actually use their facilities for elections as polling places, which is fantastic. I actually wish it was something that the state just told us to do, that they said everybody needs to have that day off. But I think that would be a great thing for us to consider.
Years ago, everybody got off. I go back to the ancient times when I walked with my parents to the polls and voted, and watched them mark their ballots and those kinds of things. East York used to have a fabulous time when polling place was down there, and the principal would have them all dressed up in red, white, and blue and march through and do all kinds of things. So I think there's a lot to be gained. But by the same token, I understand from a curriculum student teaching time, it's tough to come in on Monday and be out on Tuesday and then start up on Wednesday. So, but there is a lot to be learned when we first considered doing Martin Luther King's birthday and those kinds of days. There was always the conversation: if they stay home, they go to the mall. If they're in school, maybe we learn something. We use it as a specific teaching time. So, I can live either way, I think.
Yeah. Other feedback? Dr. Hessen, are you giving a thumbs up? Okay. With regard to the continuity of education, is it feasible to do a professional development day on the Monday and then
That's what I'm thinking of looking at and seeing if maybe some things can be moved around so that one of our professional development sessions can be there instead and move it. It is a hard balance, frankly, and we try looking at certain religious holidays to make sure that our families have different holidays. It is difficult to balance it all and still be done in May and not be here till at least the end of the first week of June. So
well, then you're balancing a civic duty or something that's learned versus, another day in school later. And I think in a perfect world, it, could be a national holiday and, then everybody would go out and so you're not going to make everybody happy, but I could support, I would defer to administration on that and see what your feedback from, faculty and administration would be on that. I think it'd be nice. Maybe we'd be, the trendsetter in terms of perhaps other districts following suit. Seems like a reasonable thing. I think it's a good suggestion.
We might even be able to help the Board of Elections that's desperate for voting places. I think that's why we started taking them out of the school, was for safety reasons, which is okay, but it seems counterintuitive to the fact we wanted to have, a polling place there. But if you threw that into the mix, might be, something to consider.
Yeah. Would anybody else like to weigh in before we move on?
I'm just curious.
Mr. Sanders?
You're looking to have election day off so our students can go vote that day? Those that are eligible to vote? Is that what?
Yeah. And staff.
And staff.
Yes.
Isn't that there is the mail-in ballot option, correct? And that's been put in place to allow that. I agree. It should be a national holiday. Absolutely. Let everybody vote, and then you can get rid of the mail-in ballots, and everybody doesn't have an excuse. I'm serious, because that's how our election system has historically been done. But that being said, how many 18-year-olds in our or how many students on average, or how many do you know are 18 as of election day? Do we have those stats?
I don't have it on me, but we could certainly figure that out.
Because I have to imagine if I'm a parent with 3 or 4 kids, then I got to, they're all school age and they're all home that day, and now all of a sudden I've got to take them with me to go vote that day. That's kind of a pain. It is. I had 3 kids. It was tough for me to do it.
I wait to vote until my kids are home because I want them to go with me.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. You let them experience that. I'm just saying that, I don't have a problem with the day off, but if the reason is that we're trying to give staff the opportunity and students who are 18 to vote, there's plenty of opportunities for them to vote that day.
Anybody else before we move on? Okay.
Thank you very much.
And the last item I have is the administration recommends board approval for the following overnight field trip requests. Again, we've got 2 trips coming out of the high school. The first one is for the FCCLA State Leadership Conference in Champion, PA, and the overnight field trip request for our TSA, which is to attend the PA TSA State Conference in Seven Springs, PA.
As I often say, education is only secondary to the military with regard to alphabet soup. So could you please, for anybody who might not know, explain FCCLA and TSA?
Yes, FCCLA is the Family Consumer. Wait, I'm not going to get that right. I see Dr. Ellis looking back there for me. The second one is the technology, or TSA is our Technology Student Association. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Ellis. Yep.
Family
Community Leaders of America.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. So can we combine those? Is anybody opposed to the combination of those two overnight field trips? I can take them separately, or we could vote together. Okay, let's vote together for those two overnight field trips. Could we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Is anybody opposed? Are there votes to the contrary? Hearing none, this can be considered a unanimous vote. And might I add, the board wishes you well, because that usually means a competition at the state level. So go get them.
Thank you. And that does conclude my report. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Kendig to address the updates to the pool, and Dr. Ellis as well.
Thank you. So as we've heard tonight, the pool is very important. And since the beginning of December, Jess has been working diligently to try to get the issues fixed. So it started early December with a small leak that she discovered, and then she sought a person to come in and repair that leak. It required to seal a pipe to fix a seal. During that time, there was some filtration ups and downs, but nothing that prevented the pool from being open. However, upon fixing that seal, we discovered a bigger issue with the pool. It caused the filtration system to be shut down, which then we can no longer operate the pool. And once that filtration system is not working properly, after so many days, you can't keep that water. So we did have to drain it. This was about right before the Christmas holiday, or the holiday break that we had. But Jess did reach out to several contractors and get them in before we did take a break. The two that she had brought in declined to give a quote to fix the problem. So towards the end of December, she did reach out to several more contractors. And in that, one of the other contractors that had declined did come back. And just this past Thursday and Friday, we did get 4 quotes to fix the pool. So she looked at the scope that they proposed, the 4 different bids, the expediency for which they could get in here, and the cost. And I'm happy to say that we do have somebody coming in at 7:30 tomorrow to fix the current problem. And the hope is to have it up by sometime next week. So that's where we currently are. It is a Band-Aid fix to fix the current problem and get the pool up so that it can be utilized at this time.
How long does it take to fill that pool once we take care of this?
I believe in my conversations with Jess, about 2 days. Is that correct, Jess? And then there's an additional day I think needed to do the filtration and the needed treatments to the water. So I
couldn't remember.
I'll ask Mrs. Thompson to please come as well. She can speak much more intelligent to the
It takes a village to explain the issue, so here we go. Hi, good evening.
Now it's on. Good evening. So, Mrs. Fryrick, it does take 2 to 3 days to fill a pool. It's 131,000 gallons. Louder.
Hang on one second. She's going to turn up the volume.
I know. I could hear.
Check it out now.
Sounds better?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vince. So it does take 2 to 3 days to fill the pool. It is 131,000 gallons. While we're filling the pool, we'll be filling the filter as well and charging the filters. And then once that's complete, the water does need to circulate to bring it up to temp. Because we all know the water coming straight from the lines in the street is only 50 degrees, and the optimal swimming temperature that Mrs. King likes to use is 78. So you're looking at 4 days. Now we can do that concurrently with or at the same time that we're doing the repairs. So it's going to be a real good timing issue, and we'll make sure that we're going to be doing that and attending to it every hour that we're here.
Dare I ask what the estimate is to fix this?
It was between 15 and 16,000. And Jess did have that she has a repair and maintenance budget, and it will be coming out of her repair and maintenance budget.
And then we have the cost of the water.
Correct.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yeah.
Were there reasons provided for the refusals to bid?
Yeah, that's my question. Yeah.
Bad time of year, that sort of thing?
No, the complexity of the fix, the aging, and correct me if I'm incorrect, but
it's the unknown.
The unknown of touching the
yeah, so
touching the filtration system.
Correct. The filter tank is a concrete tank. It is original. Now it has been coated, but there are a lot of unknowns with the repair that will take place. So a lot of companies decided that they did not want to start the repair and have to come back and possibly provide an additional quote, or because of the unknowns that are underneath where the repair is taking place.
So if I take it on, I could make the matter worse and open other issues. I'm seeking information here. I'm not making accusations.
Correct. There are unknowns. We are hopeful that this, all the contractors that came out are in agreement that this is the correct fix. We are hopeful that this will be 100% fix for this issue for a short period of time. It's just another Band-Aid. But there are unknowns, and we will not know that until we start to tear the equipment down and get into the concrete shell of the filter itself.
Dr. Hessen?
So this Band-Aid fix of $15,000 is going to last for how long?
I can't give you that information. Unfortunately, I can tell you that the pool filter that is the existing concrete shell was coated in 2020. And one of the seals that originally broke was another one was the one that we were replacing was put in 2020.
So
Mr. Sanders?
I have a number of questions. What is the allocation from our capital budget to the pool? Do you have that number? Is there an estimate?
You mean our annual maintenance, pool and maintenance, and?
Well, annual pool and maintenance is one, but I'm talking about capital expenditure. So we have maintenance, capital expenditure, and what do you have for capital improvements on the pool right now?
I do not have an allocation for capital improvements. That's a part of our larger capital fund that Mrs. Kendig and I are sorting through. But we do have a specific account number for pool repairs. It is just for pool either supplies or repairs specifically done for the pool. And I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but that's an easy number that we can pull out.
I believe any prior amounts that were put that haven't been taken care of, I believe since the current high school renovation, I think that it was, the plan is to have those things taken care of in the renovation, whether it is a renovated pool or a new pool, that has not been determined. But from my understanding, the board had charged the district in the plans that it was to look at a high school renovation with a pool. And so current capital budgets wouldn't include any major pool repairs if in a year or two that we were going to be embarking on this renovation project. When I came here, I didn't have there were no pool capital repairs, and I haven't put any in since I've been here, since we've been doing the pool.
Okay. So
did I answer your question? I mean, I'm
half,
okay.
But that's all right. I might not have been clear on what I asked. So you're spending $15,000 to $16,000 for a Band-Aid. Given how the intermediate school has progressed and it's been delayed, I would say I don't have a high degree of confidence that a 1 to 2 year out with the high school getting done. I don't have a high degree of confidence in that. And we've got kids that want to swim. I'm a former swimmer. I get it. I understand. We just put $300,000 into the capital budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a motion right now. I want that $300,000 allocated to pool expenditures.
Okay.
Anybody want to second that?
So let me ask a technical question about any element of the 300 that might not be, because we don't have a list of things with that 300,000 would be applied. So any unused portion of it could be moved back.
It would remain in the fund. I mean, we could utilize the money in that fund to do pool repairs. Yeah.
Okay, I'm willing to second that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
Nobody has said we weren't going to fix it.
No.
Are you against it?
I didn't say that.
I'm allocating funds specifically to pool maintenance and repairs. There's something wrong with that?
Would you allocate that to fix toilets someplace too if we needed
Well,
it?
I didn't see several hundred people in here talking about broken toilets.
Can I get some clarification?
Sure.
So the 300,000 would not be able to be used for maintenance because it's in cap reserve. So it could only be used for major repairs. So if we were to go and hire an architect, or not maybe an architect, but an engineer to look at a scope of what repairs need to be and what the life, to extend the life, it could be used for that. But
Sure.
any of the routine maintenance that we continue to do and have been doing, and the repairs, we fixed the pool pack this year. A couple.
Where do the funds come out of for the maintenance of the pool? Where's the 15 to 16?
Out of the general fund.
Okay, so let's finish this one and then we'll move to the maintenance.
So effectively, though, if we did that, that is money that currently, in theory, is allocated to a new pool. Because what I don't want to see happen is that we put all of that money into this pool because we need a new pool. We don't need this pool. We need a new pool. And I want our kids to have, I am a swim parent. I have my TAC t-shirt on tonight. My kid was here. We need a pool to swim in, but the Band-Aids are clearly not working. Boards after boards have been putting Band-Aids on that pool. And I'm all for putting that Band-Aid on right now so my kid can get back in the pool. And actually she won't because our last meet is this weekend. But I don't want to be pouring $300,000 into that pool because to me, and we haven't been presented with anything to vote on, but I don't want that pool anymore. We need a new pool. And $300,000 could be going to a new pool instead of the one that is over 60 years old and is outdated.
So what do you do the next 2 years?
We keep up with it. We do what we got to do. But if it gets
Where's
to
that
that
money
point,
coming from?
it's coming from where they're already taking the money out of. Where
General fund.
Yeah,
Okay,
where they already know.
So you don't have to vote for this because it's been seconded. We're having a discussion. We can talk about the general fund allocation.
And so I'm just pointing out.
Oh, I am
we
too.
still
I'm
have
trying
vote.
to bridge the gap for the kids
Yeah.
in the event that we have another filter issue or something breaks with the seal or we have a leak. I'm trying to assist. Again, former swimmer, current swimmer.
Right.
I get what the swim team does. So your solution is just push it out more.
We need a solution for, well, let's say
I
in
just
theory,
offered one.
we're building a new pool. Let's say that's what's happening.
When do we start?
Where are the kids going to swim while we're building a new pool?
This pool needs to be maintained or they need to go someplace else.
What are they going to do during construction? When they don't have a pool to swim in, we have to find a solution for that. I've already brought that up to Dr. Krauser.
What's your solution?
So what if we go to York College and ask them to use their pool?
I've said
on
that
a
since I
long-term
came on the board.
basis?
Dr. Krauser, have you talked to the president of York College and asked if we could use their pool? They are, in essence, sitting in our district not paying taxes. I think the political heat can come up on them as well. We also have a facility across the way in the JCC. Now, granted, I wouldn't want to swim in 85-degree water. It's like running in 100-degree heat.
And that's what's happening. We are utilizing.
Well, you're using them, Dallastown, Spring Grove, Graham. You're pushing the kids all over the place. But I'm trying to come up with a feasible solution to not just put a little Band-Aid on a gaping wound. I'm trying to allocate funds. And if we don't use those funds, well, guess what you do? You reallocate it to a new pool. But I'm dedicating those funds to getting a fix in the existing pool because, again, given how Crabtree Rohrball has navigated this process thus far, I don't have confidence we're getting a new pool in 2 years.
Well,
I really don't.
we haven't. We aren't there yet.
Well, no
but
kidding.
My question to Mrs. Kendig would be, if we have $300,000 allocated for pool maintenance, what does that accomplish? Because if there is a further issue, and in this antiquated facility, hopefully we can get the season in with this Band-Aid. But if there is a further issue, we are not hamstrung currently gee, we don't have funds to pay for it. We pay for it. So I guess my question is, what does this $300,000 accomplish if we had such a fund? And in your mind, as the person in charge of our finances, is that something that would help, would accomplish anything? I guess I'm not seeing really what that accomplishes.
I honestly would have to have a conversation with a pool expert or an engineer to see what I can reference. In 2009, there was a study done in this district on that pool. At that time, to fix the pool and the plumbing, it was going to cost $451,000. Now, that was in 2009. The district elected to do about $32,000 worth of concrete repair and tile. So just to bring the plumbing and that up. We also have to be careful, and I don't know what proportion, but if we touch a certain amount of that pool, we would then need to bring it into, we wouldn't have the ADA non-compliance grandfathered any longer. So we'd have to also talk to an engineer and an architect on that nature, because if we touch a certain amount, then we are talking about a whole host of additional renovations and repairs that we would have to make. So I don't have the pool expertise to fully answer what $300,000 would get us at this point in time.
Well, let me phrase it this way. Is there, other than this issue that we have with the pool right now that we clearly need to fix, nobody in this room wants us to not do that, but is there further maintenance repair that is imminent? A few years ago, $400 and some thousand, I'm sure the decision to not do that amount was because we need a new pool. Mm-hmm. And to go ahead and spend $400,000 when you're going to get a new one would be throwing money down the drain. So I'm not clear on what such a, and I'll ask Mrs. Thompson, as in your expertise, what would that help the situation?
I can speak very briefly. I have had discussions with pool experts. We do have a company here that does service our pool as well as the pool at the JCC. When part of these issues started happening, he came in and we started talking about what it would take to bring our filter system up to at the level of today's technology. And he did verbally quote me down. This is just a verbal quote, but he threw a number out of $160,000. That's just to get the filter up to the level that it should be. That doesn't include any permitting. Like Mrs. Kendig said, there would be, permitting that needed to be done. There would be engineering that needed to be done because the Department of Health does consider this a public bathing facility. There are certain boxes we have to check with the state of Pennsylvania. But the filter itself is only one of many issues with the pool. Anyone who's been on our deck knows that we have some serious issues with rebar that's coming through our tile. There are also issues with the balcony area. And there's also issues with the current pool pack. While we did make a repair, it still is an older version. So $300,000 would absolutely help get us there to a new filter system. But there are still other areas of the pool that do need to be addressed.
So let me help clarify why it's important to allocate or mark funds. We just had a whole room of students come in here and tell us how important the pool is. When you mark the funds for that specific purpose, you're telling the students and the public, guess what? We're going to use those funds for that particular purpose. By having this discussion and talking about toilets, Ellen, you're kind of poo-pooing what their issues are. I'm saying allocate the funds, mark it for that purpose, and when the issues come up, we have it sitting there. But right now, I've read the correspondence, I've read the feedback, I've heard the feedback, and the feedback hasn't been great about this board or the administration as to how we're telling people what's going on and what's going and how we're spending the funds. So that's why I think we should allocate the funds and mark them for a particular pool purpose.
Did you think that we would not have done repairs if we don't earmark $300,000?
Again, we had a lot of people that showed up tonight wondering whether we were. They didn't show up because the pool's working so wonderfully, Ellen.
Mr. Sanders, can you repeat well, let me ask this. Was the motion to set aside capital reserve funds for the pool, or would it be more agreeable to actually establish an assigned fund, which is in the general fund? It's one of the assigned funds. I can reassign.
I think that's better. So I'm gonna.
That gives us more flexibility to utilize those funds for both repair and maintenance, as well as more expensive repairs if we needed.
Again, proper capital planning, maintenance, and expenditures, we wouldn't be in this situation. So yes, I would like to make a motion to amend, or I would like to amend my motion to allocate it from the general funds to set up a new fund related to pool expenditures for $300,000.
Okay. And that's something that I would support. I would support that. I do have a question though for Dr. Krauser while we're on this topic.
Did you second the amended?
I'll second that.
Okay. Now, carry on.
When it comes to what we're doing with the pool, whether it is doing the steel liner Band-Aid, honestly, or a new pool, I know that those numbers have been worked up, hopefully by now. Are we going to have something put before us sooner rather than later by Crabtree on what, if anything, we can do in terms of a new pool and where it's going to go and what it's going to cost?
Correct. At the end of this month, during our regular update, we're going to be seeking feedback from the board to provide us in a direction for that focus. So looking for the will and the suggestion of the board, are we pursuing a new pool design, or are we pursuing a renovation of our current pool design? Giving that feedback and providing direction for the administration and planning will allow us to focus those attentions more specifically on that design and that design sequence in the next steps. So yes, that'll occur at the end of this month on the 27th.
It'll be discussed at property or no?
The high school updates will be discussed at the end of the month.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in terms of showing support for swim families and how I feel about the situation is I'm all in for a new pool. I don't think the renovation approach of the existing facility is the answer. And my concern, and I haven't heard that from administration or anybody that's the plan, but I would not want to put money in on this pool that isn't necessary. It's like a few years ago we wanted to put the recommendation was to put new doors in at East York, wasn't it, East York? And we said, wait, you're going to put new doors in a building that we're going to tear down. So we held off on that. And that's sort of what I'm thinking here about the pool. We want our swimmers to be able to use the facility, and I'm certainly hopeful and glad to hear that this company is willing to do that for us. But in terms of doing big fixes on a pool that I personally hope is no longer in existence in a couple of years, seems to be a less than prudent expenditure. And I think that's, Mrs. Turner, what you're alluding to as well. Is there further discussion?
Can we just get some clarity on what we're voting for?
Okay. The question was, could we get clarity on the motion?
I can.
So the motion that was amended is we're allocating $300,000 from the general fund to an assigned fund, which means it could be reassigned back to the general fund just for pool maintenance and expenditures to bridge the gap, not throwing it down the drain. That's not my opinion. To make sure that these kids have a place to swim in this building moving forward.
So Ashley, if you remember, I'm sorry, Nicole. As soon as I said I knew I was wrong.
That's okay.
If you remember in the presentation I did last month, we had all those different assigned funds. that are part of the fund balance. We would take and reallocate 300,000 that's assigned to a different purpose and make it purposeful for the pool.
What purpose would it be coming away from?
I believe there's a general equipment one. That's where I would see that it would come from, because it could also come out of the unassigned.
Okay.
And of course, nothing is said that we'll spend the money if it's not necessary. Mrs. San Martin?
My question is about the cap of the 300,000. So from the discussion that we've had so far, there's been several quotes. The one you said back in 2009 was over 400,000, which is more than the 300,000 cap, and that was several decades ago. So what happens if that goes above the 300,000 cap that's in the motion?
We would have to get approval from the board to spend additional funding. Now, that was a pretty extensive, I believe, fix.
Correct.
If I'm hearing certain board members, you're saying that kind of extensive fix is not what you're interested in doing. That was more of not a full renovation, but a significant renovation, and I don't hear that coming from the board.
So really, and I don't know, Mr. Sanders, if you would agree with this, but in my mind, is what you're proposing more than anything a vote of confidence and support to the swimmers and their families that they'll have a facility.
I've always had a vote of confidence for the swimmers and their families. I'm answering your question. I'm answering
I'm not
your question.
sure that you are. I thought perhaps I should clarify.
Well, please do so. Thank you, Ms. Schroeder.
Well, I don't think anybody sitting around this table has not had a vote of support for them. That isn't what I'm implying. But what I'm saying is this account that you're proposing would have that money sitting there and earmarked, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think of it as the board's support for the swim families. Is that what you're driving at?
That's exactly what I'm driving at. It's going from a party of 1 to hopefully a party of 9, but we'll see when we vote as to financial support and commitment to this swim program.
Well, again, I would, to clarify, I don't think anybody has said you don't need a pool. I don't think anybody has consciously said, no, let's don't maintain the pool. This is a set of circumstances that were unforeseen. So I don't think it's necessarily justified to say that some have and some haven't. I don't know anybody who has not been supportive of the swim program. Somebody did.
I don't think we need the pool. I would vote against the pool. When moving forward with the high school renovation, I don't think it's necessary myself. But I'm not a swimmer. And the will of the board said it was moving forward. So the will of the board is
all right. Well,
have the pool move forward.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I'm not a football player. We need a football stadium. Procedural question.
Fair.
Because this was not on the agenda, do we need to open for public comment?
Public comment, correct. Yeah, before a vote, but the discussion takes place before we make a vote. There is public commenting period.
So I'm looking for any further feedback from the board. Any further comments?
May I get one more point? Oh, I'm sorry, Dr.
No, go ahead,
Mr.
please.
Robertson. One more point of clarity. You're not necessarily directing us to pursue any current renovations.
No.
It's just earmarking the funds so that when we need them, if we need them, they are there.
That's not the
dedicated
motion.
for the pool.
There is, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There is money set aside so that when an issue comes up,
we can,
and you bring it up to us, or if Ms. Thompson say it, I can say, well, there's the money set aside for it. Let's go.
All right. Thank you.
With that explanation, my question would be, suppose we have a crisis with all the ovens here at the high school, in the kitchen has a really bad problem. If we haven't allocated funds to take care specifically of kitchen repairs, does that mean we don't do them?
So, Alan, I'll answer your question for you. When we take money out of the healthcare account to help offset tax increases or our budget, does that mean we don't care about our staff? Because we did that for a lot of years as well. We kept tapping into our health savings account to help balance the budget. Does that mean that we should have a certain percentage of our staff get more sick?
No, absolutely.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
No.
I'm making a show of support for the many people that showed up tonight.
I support these people as much as.
Well, you're not saying it by your words.
However,
let's have a little bit of a respectful tone here. I don't think it's necessary. I don't want any of us to get into a personal thing. Like I said, I've heard nothing but support for these families, and by putting money into an account to do a pool repair as needed, it is not saying that we haven't been ready to do that. It's just moving money and having an account and a vote of confidence to the swim families, which I personally am not seeing a downside to.
No, I didn't say you were.
Any further feedback? Mr. Robinson?
Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry you walked all the way back. I did have a question for you. My understanding is that you have a team coming in tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
And they're going to be doing what they do.
Yes, sir.
But you also use the term unknowns.
Correct.
That always makes me really, really nervous.
Me as well.
So theoretically, they could come in tomorrow morning and do what they have to do and tell you that they can make this pool serviceable in a fixed period of time for a fixed amount of money. And that would be the best possible outcome.
Correct.
Conversely, they could do what they do and find something unknown. Is that possible?
It is possible.
So we really don't know until they look at it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Is it conceivable that $300,000 would not be enough from the knowledge you have before you and what you know of the pool and past repairs?
To fix that issue, yes, it would be. To address the issues of the pool as a whole, no, it would not.
Okay.
However, certainly we do have a lot of great partners that would be able to, for us to prioritize the issues that are happening with the pool, with the hope that certainly that amount of money would be able to give us a few more years inside the pool as it sits now.
So would that provide us with a bridge from the current pool to a new pool?
Boy, you're really
possibly.
You're really putting me on the spot. Possibly, yes.
Okay.
Possibly, yeah. But we would have to prioritize based on, what the most grave issues are in the pool. We would have to prioritize.
Okay. Because I just want to make it clear to every one of my colleagues and to all the parents and swimmers who've remained with us, if it's possible to make this pool serviceable for the team in this season and the next couple of seasons, I'm all for that. I don't see it as a permanent solution because the more and more I hear about this pool, it's not worth the powder to blow it to kingdom come, if you know what I mean. We need a new pool. And that would be my position. I would follow the position of Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Schrader. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So while we're in the idea generating discussion time frame here, if we're talking about a new pool, so Dr. Krauser, we spent money on a study for fundraising. I think, $25,000, somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that number, but it's right around there. The one thing that came out from that study was a targeted campaign would probably be the most successful way to raise funds if we were to raise funds for a particular purpose here. Since you've already met with the TAC parents, I know there's communication there. I think sharing that study with the TAC parents, and possibly, since you got the group rolling out here, maybe you can take that study and help to offset the cost of a new pool and maybe get some more input in a new pool if you go raise some money to build that pool with that study's help. Just a suggestion, I'm throwing it out there. We spent almost $25,000 of taxpayers. Well, thanks. I'm glad you remembered that for me.
Say that again, Mrs. Wright.
$12,500 for that study.
Perfect, Ellen. Well, then $12,500 worth of a study that told us that a targeted effort could potentially be used. I think sharing that study, and maybe it'll generate some ideas for them. I don't know, but I would say that would be another idea.
Okay, I'd like to open this up. By law, we have to open this up for public comment because this is an item that was not on the agenda that the public could have commented on earlier. So since this is a motion that's not within the agenda, is there public comment? And we'll just do it the old school way. If you would come forward, make a line, I guess, and this is a situation where we will need you, yes, we will need you to state your name and address, and you will be limited to the 3 minutes, and we will restrict these comments to this motion, which is creating a $300,000 account specifically for the purpose of pool maintenance.
Great. Yes, my name is John Allen. I'm in Spring Garden Township. Listening here, appreciate the commitment of the board to fix the problem, get our swimmers back in the water. I think that's the big issue that everyone here wants to see addressed. So good to see that move forward. In terms of allocating more money, I guess my perspective and how I would approach this, you have people coming tomorrow, let them do their job, commit the money to pay them to fix it. If they find out there's more issues in there, you'll have something to work with to figure out what the plan is. Because the plan could be more expensive to get the pool till you have a new pool. So I definitely appreciate the effort to allocate more money. And I think when you have more information, then make the decision on how much you're going to spend on it. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, good evening.
Hi, I'm Chris Sanders.
Your township, please.
Spring-It's-Berry.
Thank you.
This motion is what needs to happen because we have leadership here that talks and says things to make people feel good, but they never come up with a concrete plan. We have Attorney Director Sanders saying, let's take the money, let's put it aside for the pool. You have a problem, you talk about it, and then you fix it. All you want to do is talk about things. No wonder they had to take this into their own hands. Now, there's been discussion about the athletic director. He's the one that's at fault. But you know what? He may be the scapegoat because the leadership, it's the leadership that shows the people below them what they want and how they should be. So if you have an athletic director that thinks he can get by with maybe not going to any swim meets because they're on the low-level tier of what he has to do, that's where the problem is. Now, maybe he went to Dr. Krauser. Maybe he went to the school board here and said to you, this needs to be fixed. What can we do? But what I've seen in the past is everything is pushed off. That is why we are in the situation we are in right now. We need people that can make a decision and move forward. The gentleman previously, Fine, let the gentleman come in tomorrow, but gosh darn it, if tomorrow he says it's $15,000 and then 2 months from now all of a sudden it's broken again, what does that do for the swimmers? Obviously, they're very committed to what they're doing, but once again, the school district continues to talk. All they do is talk about things, and they never make decisions. Now is the time to finally say, yes, we will commit this, and as it goes, things will be taken care of. What I see tonight is a board that just talks the talk, but doesn't want to walk the walk. So thank you.
Mr. Dara, hello.
Mike Dara, Spring Garden Township. Okay, so again, we're back to the maintenance. $450,000 16 years ago, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now. Same as the roof at Valley View, we went to a cheaper roof. We were in a position now we had to replace a roof. It's my understanding this pool is undersized from most other pools in other facilities. So my mind might not be perfect, but my memory, there's no room to expand where that pool is at right now. So you're looking at a new facility outside of this building. Do you think that facility and pool are going to be finished in 3, 4, 5 years? If you don't maintain this one now and spend the money that is necessary, these kids will not have a pool for 5 years. 5 years out of this program, you might as well wipe this program off the map in Suburban. Maintain what's here. Spend what is necessary to keep this pool going until you have a plan, approval, and financing to build the new pool and facility. And does anybody know where that would be on this property? I asked that question earlier. All of that has to come into thought because a new pool, can you imagine getting equipment inside this building and tear that pool out and rebuild that pool? How much noise would happen inside this building while you have kids going to school here? They wouldn't be able to hear. You have to think about all of this before you look forward. Right now, you have to put Band-Aids on this pool because you didn't spend the $450,000 16 years ago. We keep spending money on studies on this district. That was 09. 16, we did studies on all the facilities. And 19, we did studies on these facilities. Spent all this money and did nothing. Nothing to maintain this stuff. Most of you weren't here during all those discussions. You're here now. You have to come up with a plan right now to patch that pool and make it last 5 years. Because you're not getting a new facility and a new pool in 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Kevin Schoaf. I'm a resident of Spring Garden Township. I was signed up for a comment period. I figured I was going to be at the beginning with the kids, but I guess paperwork, whatever. So I want to speak about the pool. This is the best time to do it. So I have two sons who are both student athletes in multiple sports here at York Suburban. The extracurricular programs, all of them, not just sports, are really not extra. They are vital. They are a vital part of the school community and a place where our kids can learn to be teammates, understand a bigger cause than themselves, as well as grow into leaders, which we seem to fall very short on these days everywhere. These traits are paramount in the growth of our kids and just as important as academics as preparing them for adulthood. My oldest son is a prime example of these benefits. He spoke here earlier this evening. As a student, he's introverted. He's not a social butterfly. As an athlete, he's a welcomed and vital member of a team that is accepted by all his teammates and allows him to grow socially and ultimately accepted on this team by his coaches and those teammates. Having served in the United States Army, I can attest to these traits being those that created good soldiers and a reliable crew member on my aircraft, which I served. I also recently served on a committee seeking ideas for recruitment and retention of firefighter paramedics in the county, which I am currently employed as a firefighter paramedic. The idea of recruiting student athletes was in the forefront of our recommendations for potential candidates who would have the best chance of success becoming firefighter paramedics. The idea that a new pool would just be for the swim team really misses what the pool should be for. This school, as well as the facilities in York Suburban School District, belong to the taxpayers. Recognize that the school building as a community center. The residents of the district should be allowed the opportunity to use the pool along with all other facilities within this building, no different than the track and athletic fields on the school grounds. I understand the logistics of this would be difficult, but not overwhelming. Once again, this offers an opportunity for our students to step up and be leaders. Any current student or graduate who's gone off to college can return for the summer and volunteer to teach interested residents in the district how to swim, teach others how to be lifeguards, even lead water fitness classes for our seniors. Lastly, I would like to express to the board my appreciation for the coaches, administrators, and parents who have stepped up to fill the current void created by a lack of leadership and a lack of contingency plan to allow our student athletes the opportunity to practice and compete. All this knowing that for some time the pool is at the end of its service life. Without those individuals and their efforts, our kids would not have had a season. After a pandemic.
Thank you, sir. That's your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, Jeff Hirsch, Spring and Sperry Township. I want to apologize in advance if I'm the only one in the room that implied that with some of the arguments that there was an either or between patching the sad current pool and the new one, as if the money, we'll save the money to do this. As the gentleman 2 speakers back said, what do we do until that pool doesn't magically appear? We have 2, 3, 4, 5 years to wait with nothing if we're counting, if we don't repair it. So we, in my mind, we have to do all 3 alternatives that I've seen here. We have to do the current repairs unless new repairing and investigation shows that that's going to be fruitless. And we have to pursue outside alternatives, inconvenient or having hardship that they may be, because whether or not the repairs are successful or the new pool is funded, we have to get from this year to whatever year for our students. So we really have to look in all 3. And the other thing, the number 3 was the outside fundraising, because I'm not in town full time, and I don't know if that Act 34 booklet that, was that suspended with the halt because of the variances and all that. But to my recollection, none of this has been given updated current pricing. All the numbers that are being thrown around for the school consolidation and the pool and all the other things were numbers from how many years ago? So, we could be saying, oh, it's $300 million. Well, maybe now it's 500. And, what is the limit of what the taxpayers can pay? I don't want to find that out the hard way. This is whatever it comes out. I have granted the school board an unlimited credit line on my property. And if I can't keep up with that, see you, Jeff, 3 strikes to the hammer, you're gone. So I would hope that, we'd take a look at the whole picture. And like I say, do all 3 of these directions in parallel, because they're all part of the picture. I don't see a way to separate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Kathy Schaefer, Spring and Sperry Township. I'd like to say I do support the continued maintenance of the current pool. I believe it's necessary to maintain the rich tradition of the swim team and the swimming program here at York Suburban. I'd also like to say, or actually repeat, a quote that Coach Geyer said at his last attendance at a meeting, that a pool can, as the two speakers before me, a pool can be an asset. It's not a liability. It doesn't have to be a liability. But thirdly, I'd like to say I thought the point earlier about making the board being able to make a decision and move forward was somewhat ironic, because it seems to me the board did make a decision about an intermediate school, and they are trying to move forward. But there's pushback against that. You can't have it both ways.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Danny Barker, Spring-Sperry Township. A yes vote on this motion is a smart move. It's going to bode well for you. This is excellent thinking and governing, and because it's just taking care of routine maintenance. It's what we should do with our assets. If you say yes, good job.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Terry Stroman, Spring Garden Township. I commend all these kids for coming in here tonight. But it's one thing that I would pretty well be assured of, is none of them paid the real estate taxes for their parents. That I'm pretty well sure of, they even offered to pay the increase. And secondly, if you had the money for this new pool and you had the money for East York, you wouldn't be borrowing it. And you don't spend your way into prosperity. I had 40 years in business, and believe me, I watched a lot of guys go up the spout. They tried to spend more than they were taking in. It happened every time. They were saying, well, what did I do wrong? And it's just not, I can't see that you're going to spend that much money and borrow that much money and not realize that you're going in the hole deeper and deeper. And what used to be like $100 for a home and an increase in taxes, it's going to be more like $400. Real easy. And I pay enough taxes now because I've got a farm, I got a house, and the amount of taxes is unbelievable. It almost tripled from when in 82 or 86 from when I built it. And I said that I went to Spring Garden Variance Board 8 times. I was wrong on that. I went 11 times. And that does include the 2 times I went to Washington, so I had to get approval from the Department of Agriculture. Did that in less than 2 hours each time. I was on my way home, got it approved. And I watched these people at this last school board or last meeting of the township. Like I said, I knew in the first hour it wasn't going to go through, because even I knew you had to have shrubbery and grass in the parking area at East York. Like, well, I knew that. I knew that from the meetings I was at. And to spend the money that you're spending, it was a very expensive night for all of the taxpayers. I don't care who you are, but it was a very expensive night. That's about it.
Thank you. Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Hi. I'm Penny Wood, Spring Garden Township. I'm all for what you're doing with this pool. It needs to be fixed. These kids should not lose their what they think is their future, possibly in swimming for college and that kind of thing. So I'm all for it. I'm happy that you're committing money to it. You know, what I see here is more positive than anything I've seen since I've been coming to these meetings this past February. It's really hard for you people to make a decision. Stop. Make the decision and stop putting it off. That's probably one of the reasons why this pool is in the shape that it's in right now. And if you need to take some of that money to look at, can this pool be fixed? Can it last 5 years? If that's what it takes to get a new pool, you should use some of that money to do that so that these kids and their families know what it's going to look like for them for their future as far as swimming. I think it's very important to them. The other thing I think was the $12,500 study to see about people getting together and maybe raising some funds. You've got a study out there you spent $12,500 for, and it doesn't seem like most of you even remembered it. It's like out the door if Mr. Sanders hadn't brought it up. That's a good idea to do that. It will save a little bit of money. Maybe there's some extras that will pay for. And the final thing I have to say, I hope these doors at the elementary school that you decided you don't want to fix because it's going to be torn down in 2 years. I hope to God they're not security doors to keep somebody out of that school that would do harm to our children. Is that a no?
They weren't.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Michael Park, Spring of Sparrow Township. I'm in support of the motion. I think you should make the motion higher. I'm going to share something. I mean, it's obvious that the public is losing confidence in many of you based on what I saw tonight, and that shouldn't be happening. So, you know, I've been president of a student organization at Penn State for 25 years, and they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for Dance Marathon. Well, a couple of years back, the sponsor family was a young man who went to York Suburban. He was a swimmer. And I remember coming to his swim meets in support and watching him swim all through his cancer and watching the team supporting him. And I think that had as much to do of anything with him getting better and getting through his cancer. I don't want to see who it is. Many of you probably knew who I'm referring to. But the young man's doing great now. And the swimming gives you a chance to have an individual accomplishment and have an accomplishment as a team. There's not many sports that do that. And unfortunately, reality is with this remodel in Spring Garden, it's going to take years and years and years for approvals. All your grandfather stuff's going to have to get changed. It's a pipe dream to think you're going to have a new swimming pool in 3 years. You'll be lucky to have it in 5 years, most reasonably. So you need to allocate the money to keep that pool moving for the next 5 years, like Mr. Dare said. That's the only way you're going to. And it's not fair. Either that or find a place for these kids to swim so they can go to the same place every day. It's not fair to them to move them around, and that needs to change. So spend the money you need to spend for that. You have $4 million unassigned funds. Fix the pool the right way so they can use it the next 5 years.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rin Caputa. I'm in Spring Garden Township. As I'm aware, many of you have read the emails that caused a lot of the families to come here tonight, and I feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the swim community at York Suburban and TAC on this issue relatively. Without speaking to all of them, I'll caveat it in that way. I think what you heard tonight is that you're right. We need a vote of confidence. I do think communication is an important piece of that, which tonight was very helpful for, and I want to say thank you for supplying a lot of the information that you have. If I had my magic wand and I could choose, I would say, yes, fix the pool, fix it as quickly as you can. Also, put a fund aside to make sure that there isn't a question. One of the things that kept going around in our community was if it's above $5,000, we're going to need board approval. That will delay the pool getting repaired. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was a communication that was going around. If there would be a way to make sure that the pool could stay viable through proactive maintenance, through trying to identify what's wrong with it. And if these funds could be used for that, I think that that would be very helpful. I would advocate that we do need a new pool. I think if for no other reason, in all of the time that I've been watching these board meetings over the past few years that I've lived here, this seems to be the most agreeable that all sides have been. And if our pool can actually bring people together in that way into some type of compromise and some type of common ground, that's really just a beautiful thing. It makes me super proud of those kids who spoke here tonight. The last thing I'll say is my hope is that if you do put this money aside, that is not then taking away from, as some of you have mentioned, a long-term backup plan while we move towards a new pool. I think we need to have a consistent plan in place that if the pool goes down today, tomorrow we're at wherever that consistent place is, or a couple of days. But something that's already standard in place that is committed so that people, parents, coaches aren't scrambling to try to figure that out. So thank you. And please support the poll. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further? Oh, hi.
I'll take like 30 seconds.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. I'm Melinda Waterbury, and I live in Spring Garden. I just wanted to say I also support the motion, mostly because of transparency. I think something that's really been lacking between the administration, school board, and the public. So I support it fully for that. The only other thing I would like to mention is that almost every student mentioned the time it takes for them to go to practice or the time that they're losing from studying. Are we not also looking at that same issue for sending hundreds of students over daily from Indian Rock to a new school in another area? It's going to be the same problem. Just wanted you to think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last call, public comment. Oh, here comes more. You don't have to run. You're okay.
But I just have a question. With this being very technical.
Your name and township, please.
Lindsay Billett, Spring Garden Township. All of the focus on this has been on repairs. If we're putting money aside to allocate towards the program as a whole, if looking down the road 2 years from now, it is an unrepairable pool, and there's still funds allocated, could that be used towards like rental and different facilities, not necessarily being just the program here, is my question.
This really isn't a question and answer
well, then it's something to keep in
but
mind,
something to think about. Yeah.
Yep. Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Hello. Welcome again.
Randy Quigley, Springersbury Township. My father-in-law had a 1984 Kenworth. He put 1 million miles on it. He did an in-frame maintenance. There was no buildup on any of the pistons. The truck's probably still running yet. The main thing I'm saying is maintenance. I said, I've been to this school since they had the pool that long ago. It just seems as though what my father-in-law did with the maintenance on his truck was sure helped all these years. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Any board discussion before we vote? Okay. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Freinrich.
Yes.
Dr. Hessen. Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
Mrs. San Martin.
Yes.
Mrs. Schrader.
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mrs. Turner.
Yes.
Madam President, the motion passes 7-1.
Okay, that's great.
Would like to make sure we get Dr. Ellis to kind of wrap up
Yes.
the rest of that communication piece.
Right. Dr. Ellis, you got the boot there. We got off, but now you're back. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity Dr. Krauser is giving here just to talk a little bit about the challenges that we have faced. But before I do that, certainly want to recognize my students who I'm very, very proud of and how they came up and spoke very eloquently about the circumstances they're in. None of us are happy with the circumstances they're in right now and what they're doing, but they have shown, I think Logan said, with grit and perseverance that I haven't seen in student athletes in a long time. So I certainly appreciate what they've been through. And I sincerely hope that one will have a repair very soon, that we can get our kids back in our own pool, and or there's another option available that can be a better circumstance for where we are. Certainly one of the greatest challenges we face is there are not a whole lot of swimming facilities in our area. Only 11 of the 22 teams in the leagues have a swimming program, and 3 of those 11 swim at their local Y. So there are not a whole lot of facilities, and just as our pool is used from the time the kids walk in the morning or even before that to tack leaving well into the evening, their school programs or their programs are as well. They have club teams, they have their youth programs, they have open swims, they have swimming lessons, all the same types of things that we try to support. So it becomes very difficult to dislodge them from their own constituents when we get into circumstances like this. But one thing I've learned being around the swimming community for the 13 years I've been here, as well as I've been blessed to serve as on the executive committee of the league, is the swimming community is very tight knit. They will do anything for each other they reasonably can do. And I do appreciate, we've been in the pools of 4 other of our league members in this time and appreciate them opening it up to us.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you? Publicly, could we name those districts? Because that is very admirable.
Well, certainly the districts that we've been in their pool, we've been in Northeasterns, Spring Groves, as well as Dallas Towns. And then indirectly, we've also been in Graham Aquatic Center, which is West York's home site, but that's obviously Graham Aquatic Center that has opened the door to us for that.
Thank you for doing that.
Yep. And certainly there has not been a lack of effort to have a long-term contingency plan. Back in May of 2023, Dr. Krauser asked Mr. Corsi and indirectly myself as well to explore various options for how we can get our athletes into somewhere else, if that's during construction or whether we have a circumstance. Unfortunately, it is not many options better than what we currently have right now. All of them have protected their own programs. They would have limited time for our athletes to be able to get in. Especially, we appreciate the swimming efforts that they do from the morning swims to the evening swims. There's not a whole lot of opportunities to that time, but certainly we'll continue to explore those options, but it has not proven fruitful to this point, and just puts an emphasis on what we need to do going forward. So that leaves us to where we are right now. Certainly, we have unfortunately been through some false hopes of repairs. We did have continual hope that we would be in the pool next week or the week after, and we've continued to go through that and work through contingency plans as they have come about. I certainly appreciate the efforts that Mr. Corsi and Dr. Adams have made administratively to try to facilitate these, and especially as well to Mrs. Jenkins, who has tapped into her community as a swimming coach, also to call in favors and other opportunities to get our students into the pool, and has given us at least a schedule, although it's certainly not an option. When we found out we had an issue and it extended after those first couple of days, of course, York College is always our first choice. It's who we've gone to in other circumstances, although never during the time frame that we're talking about now. When we first had our issue, it was at about the point where the college was going on recess. Their swimmers were out. And the contacts that were made at that point, multiple contacts in the middle of December, they shared that they were not willing to have us come in for various reasons, including liability, as well as things such as just simply operating the pool when they would not otherwise have done it. So Mr. Corsi moved on to other options, as well as Coach Jenkins. And that's where we ended up in some of the other pools they alluded to, Northeastern, Dallas Town, and Spring Grove, a schedule that got us through the middle of December. When it became clear that it was going to extend into winter break, Dr. Krauser asked us all to come together, look at what options would be available, as well as to do some preliminary communication of where we are. The nice thing going into winter break for us is it facilitated a lot more options for our student athletes. It opened up that time frame from 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock where our kids are supposed to be in school studying. now they could actually be in the pool, and a schedule was worked out during that time. Also during that time, there was an effort to start looking at what happens after it comes. If we get to the end of break and we still don't have a repair, although when we went into break, we were hopeful we would have a repair coming out of that. So some contingency plans were developed. Again, the current schedule that obviously is not what any of us would like to have in place was one of those pieces. And again, there was outreach to York College, which proved unfruitful. Now, I will say the people that we reached out to at York College are the ones we have always reached out to. They're the ones such as the director of facilities, as well as some of the aquatic staff and or the athletic staff. Those are the ones that we've worked with in the past to be able to facilitate some of the part-time arrangements. I remember early in my career, there was an issue with the starting blocks. A few years ago, you remember the ceiling was having issues, as well as we've had filtration issues multiple times, and there were some off-season efforts to get into the pool. So they've always been able to facilitate those options, and we understood that they weren't an option over break. Now, interestingly, concurrently to all of that, some parents appreciate the efforts on their part, passionate for their own kids, made some outreach to some administrators in York College, and seemingly may have opened up a door to another option. Dr. Krauser received a contact and reached out, exchanged some dates, and the earliest, unfortunately, that York College agreed to was going to be this coming Wednesday. So Dr. Krauser will have a meeting coming up with the chief of staff at York College to discuss hopefully the short-term plans and their willingness to open up the pool to us to solve this current issue, but then also some of the contingency plans and maybe a long-term site if we do not have a pool for a period of time because of a construction project. Now, looking through a couple other pieces here to share. Now, part of that came out as I was sharing our understanding from our York College contacts is it was not viable over break. The York College parents were some of our parents who made that outreach certainly felt like the communications that they had with the administrators at York was much more viable and could possibly happen much sooner. That brought that to our attention last week, and as soon as that happened, Dr. Krauser asked me to reach out to the gentleman he was going to be meeting with to see if we could facilitate an earlier conversation. That was not fruitful as well. They deferred to the conversation that was scheduled for Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, and we'll go into that meeting hoping that will emerge from it with an opportunity to be partnered with York College going forward, both for these short-term pieces and the long-term. Not exactly sure what may transpire. Maybe it may simply be a matter of now their student athletes are about to return. I believe actually their swimmers are back. They are competing now. The student athletes the students will be coming back, the ones that serve as lifeguards, and some of the other things have been mentioned as needs they'll be back in 2 weeks. So it may be a matter that simply it is now open for us to use because of that, or it may be that your college administration is willing to make some changes to the practices that have been told to us so that it can facilitate access for our student athletes. But regardless, I sincerely hope that we do have a repair soon, and this is a moot point for this little bit of time, but also that we can emerge from that conversation with a long-term relationship that can help overcome these kind of obstacles going forward. So thank you.
Anything for Dr. Krauser? Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I do. It's Dr. Ellis, but
Oh, yeah, it is Dr. Ellis. That's right. Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Sanders.
so the travel time, have any of these other school districts or the Y, have they charged you any funds to use their facilities?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information. Mr. Corsi?
At this point, we have not been billed. We did offer to pay rental fees. We have not received any invoices.
Okay, so
just to repeat that, so it's on the microphone. Yep, we have not been charged for anything at this point. Thank Mr. Corsi just shared that information.
The whole York College thing is I've been hearing this since I came on the board, and it's really disheartening that that's the reaction that they give. Given again, they're one of the biggest offenders of not paying property taxes in our district. Them and the other healthcare facility that's sitting out there. Now, the other healthcare facility actually donates money to this school to help offset some of our costs. But York College to say no and come up with a lame excuse is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. It's not your fault. I get what you got. You guys have enough to do. But the York College administration and the people that put that policy in place should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely 110% ashamed of themselves. That's disgusting that they wouldn't even think through offering the pool to a neighboring school to use their facilities. I really hope that they rethink exactly what their policy is in that regards because it's disgusting. They already aren't paying property taxes. We're a district that was hurting. We needed a temporary fix. It's poor neighborly qualities on behalf of the college. I, for one, will never send my kids there because of this stupid policy.
Anything else for Dr. Ellis? Thanks very much. Okay, so next step, where are we? Are we back to business office report?
Thank you. The following items are being presented for discussion. They will be recommended for approval during the regular monthly meeting scheduled for January 27, 2025. So the first 4 items, I'm not going to read through all of them, but they are all veterans tax exemptions that were granted through the assessment office. There are 2 that are new for 24, and then there are 2 additional ones that are renewals of previous. Number 5, the administration is recommending approval of the 24-25 IDEA B pass-through funds agreement with the Lincoln Intermediate IU-12. These funds must be used for to supplement our provisional special education related services for eligible school-age students. The total for 2024-25 is a little bit less than we received in 23-24 by about $26,000. However, it is more than what was budgeted for this year. So we're on the upside of that. And the administration is also recommending approval of the 24-25 IDEA Section 619 pass-through funds agreement with the Lincoln IU. These funds must support kindergarten eligible children receiving special education services through the district or remaining an extra year in early intervention. And this total is also less than we received last year. And number 7, the administration recommends board approval of a 5-year agreement with IUP Educator Clinician Preparation Field Experience Agreement with Indiana University of Pennsylvania to provide clinical preparation field experience for IUP education majors at no cost to our district. Number 8, the administration, in accordance with board policy, is recommending that the board approve the 2025 IRS mileage reimbursement rate of 70 cents per mile, which was effective January 1, 2025 by the IRS. And finally, number 9, the administration recommends board approval of the proposed Lincoln Intermediate Unit 12 2025-26 general operating budget. Are there any questions on any of these items?
Any questions? Okay.
All right. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Academic Standards and Curriculum Committee report.
Thank you.
Dr. Sullivan.
So Dr. Furman and Dr. Ellis are available to answer any remaining questions that board members might have about the proposed change to the high school, college prep, and general mathematics progression. We talked about this a month or so ago. This was one of the proposed courses or course changes that needed to breathe a little bit, as I know that there were some board questions, and perhaps we were also hearing some of us from members of the community as well. I appreciate the efforts of our intrepid administrators in putting this in a form that's a little bit more sensible for the visual learners, of which I'm one, and answering some of our other questions about, what share of our student population find themselves in each of these tracks that could potentially be affected in the ways that are laid out in this document. So I would I don't know if either of you wants to do any walking us through it before moving on to any of the board questions.
Sure. I'll be happy just to do a quick little overview of where we are. This is just the information Dr. Sullivan had raised with some questions at the end of the presentation and in early December about ways to look at the program. So on the front portion of the document, as well as at the very top of the second page, is just a sort of an outline of what happens with each individual program. So again, as we had shared before, there will be no change to our honors program. They'll continue through a typical progression with year-long courses. The adaptations that are coming were within the college preparatory, as well as we tell them our general level students in terms of how they'll prepare. And it's the idea of the consolidation of the various things that we do for those students into semester-based courses, starting with a pre-algebra semester for some of the students that need extra assistance, whereas those students that are ready for high school mathematics can move directly into an Algebra 1, but that Algebra 1 will now take 3 semesters instead of the 1 year that we have been doing previously. The trade-off for that fact of doing 3 semesters dedicated to Algebra 1 is that we would only have 1 semester of geometry for the college preparatory students. We've only had 1 semester of geometry for our general level students previously. That's not a change for them. That course will stay the same. So that's an outline of how the progression will be for those students, both what it is currently as well as what we're proposing for each of those groups. And the last piece is one of the elements was, I think I remember someone talking about it being an out-of-the-box kind of idea, and it is a little bit different of approach. It was very difficult to try to find others that are doing specifically what we're doing, because frankly, no high school has figured out how to do it perfectly right. Everybody tries something different. And you see that with the examples of how programs are implemented on the back end. I looked at the schools that were adjacent to us, as well as some of the top schools typically regarded in the area and how they approach school. You can see all of them have a different kind of a schedule. I think there's only 2 common schedules in that midst, as well as how they try to get students through, whether that's a double block in some cases, whether that's 3 trimesters. Everyone sort of has a different approach. The general piece saying that the way we do it currently was the smallest amount of time dedicated to Algebra 1, save for Hershey, which does a little bit less time than us. But then moving forward, if we make this modification, it'll put us into a more comparable time with how many of the other school districts are approaching Algebra 1 going forward. So that's a little bit of a highlight of what's there, but certainly happy to answer any questions or anything, thoughts you've had since our meetings in December about the direction that we're trying to go in.
Anybody? Guess not.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for this specifically, because this makes my brain work a lot better. But I like what I'm seeing. I wasn't at the meeting you presented at, but I watched it later, and I'm excited about this. I think it was Mr. Sanders that said it was out of the box thinking, and I was saying it at the same time as I was watching it. So this looks good. I'm excited. Thank you.
Mr. Sanders?
And I will reiterate, yes, I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking. What I'm hopeful, and I have a long memory, you come back to me in a year and 2 years and you tell me what the results are. Because that's been lacking in my almost 8 years of time on this board is follow-up. I'm not saying you specifically, Dr. Ellis, or you, Dr. Furman. What I'm saying is I appreciate that you did this, but I want to see the results.
Well, certainly did. I will say we won't have a lot of results in 1 year simply because the students won't have completed algebra, but theoretically in 2 years when we get the results, we'll be able to speak to that.
I have a kid going into 6th grade, so I'm here for a little
You got time, right? We'll have it figured out by then.
We've had conversations at a middle school level about the in-class assessments that tend to track the standardized tests better or worse, Acadience versus IXL. To Mr. Sanders' point about timing, we could either wait until the first cohort goes through this process and then look at what happens to, I guess, to the Keystone Algebra for that group. Are there any in-class assessments that we can use to have an earlier view as to whether this is working the way we expect it to or not?
So, excuse me, to that end, this year I've asked the high school algebra teachers to start to lean into using the classroom diagnostic tests so that we can begin to track that, so that we're not waiting till that. Oftentimes we call it that autopsy report till you get those final scores, so that we could have some information to course correct along the way, slow down when needed.
Thank you.
And I would add as well, just from a traditional test that the teachers are making up, They're not looking to make 10 new unit tests going forward. We have the basic tests that we've been using for many years to assess each of the various chapters. So they'll be able to compare year to year whether or not to see if more students are having success on those classroom assessments that are already in place as well.
And then also to that end, even though the integrated math curriculum was not approved, we are taking a deep look at what the Pennsylvania standards, the depth of knowledge that is being called for in that. And so there will have to be some assessment changes along the way to up the rigor, frankly. You talked a lot this evening about the feedback that you got from the $12,500 that was invested. We invested a whole lot more in a math audit that I'm not giving up on just yet.
All right. I didn't have anything else.
Just then to wrap this up, we'll put this on the agenda at the next meeting because we are revising the courses and that flow and that organization of the courses. So we'll need to vote on it before the staff can actually begin diving deep into those changes.
So that can be soon. Sorry. That'll be soon.
Yep. We'll get that on the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll have a discussion. We'll have the usual discussion section period before we vote at that time as well. So continue your ruminations.
Right. Mrs. Turner, did you have a question?
While I have you, Dr. Furman, I just recently through work found out about, and maybe I'm behind in this, about PA Firefly assessments. And I was curious if that's something that we've considered doing because it seems like it would be similar to the assessments we're doing like Acadians, but specific to Pennsylvania since they're the ones putting it out there.
Absolutely. I'm keeping an eye and an ear on that. I'll be honest, when the CDTs, classroom diagnostic tests, were first rolled out, they were meant to be exactly what Firefly is. They were meant to give us actionable feedback along the way. And the leaders at the time, district level leaders, were gung-ho and they were like, this is it. This is going to be it. And so we were all in with that. And I can tell you on behalf of the teachers who were there then and representing them now, the scars run deep. Those tests were terrible. They were clunky. They took hours. It was something that was supposed to take 45 minutes. And because they were diagnostic and they kept filtering based on the student responses, they were taking 2.5 hours per assessment. So learning from the lessons, being in this district long enough, I said, no, thank you to piloting anything to do with Firefly. We're just going to stand back, watch and see how it goes, and keep an eye on that to see if it is a viable option moving forward. But we're going to let other districts pilot that this round.
Was it on paper back then?
No.
No, it was still like in DRC.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, let's wait and see, but thank you.
And we have, and along the way, it wasn't like we just said, okay, let's wait. We've waited 12 years. We did, when I moved to East York, we did give it another go around, another try at the elementary level, Dr. Gully and I. And again, they were still clunky. Okay. They still took an inordinate amount of time that we were like, nope, not ready yet.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great.
All right. That concludes my report.
Thank you for your help on this. That takes us to Communications Committee. Mrs. Fryrick, have you a report?
Yes. Here comes Mrs. Foreman. And tonight I've asked Mrs. Foreman to provide us an update on some of what's going on with the districts pursuing a website redesign.
Hello, now we're on.
Yeah.
Given that the personnel item is next with 2 potential new hires in the audience, I'm going to keep my comments quick and brief here. But as you may recall, in November, the district released an RFP for a new website vendor and possibly a mass communication system. The deadline for proposals for that was December 17th, so right before break. So I had hoped to receive maybe 4 or 5 companies as potential new website companies. That's typically the response that school districts get to a website RFP. We received 11. So that was way more than I was anticipating, and I was pleasantly surprised. So utilizing the RFP rubric, Mr. Henry joined me, and we reviewed each of the proposals that we received. And we were not only looking at like the short-term benefits, but also long-term costs, and also the features that they offered, the training, the support, the security, the accessibility, other aspects and services that they would ensure would be a good fit for our needs now and then also moving forward. So looking at the proposals, of them that we received, 6 vendors proposed a website redesign that was similar to what we have now with Beaver Builder and WordPress. So it would be a template that they create, and then any additional tech support that we would need or any changes we would need would incur additional costs later on. So those vendors do have a very large setup charge because it's like a one-time deal, but then no annual cost. So we had to consider that as well. The other 5 vendors offered customization of one of their existing school district specific templates. So they have these basic templates and then you can customize them, but they have a general idea what the website is going to look like starting off. And because of that, it's a little cheaper, but you do incur an annual fee. But with that annual fee, gives the district an option. Many of these, once a year, you can make a design change, and it also includes unlimited tech support, unlimited training. And then also it makes automatic updates, kind of like your phone when you get the software update, that if there's something new that would help with accessibility or with mobile delivery, that change would be automatically incorporated into your product and into your website without any additional cost. So based on our initial review of the 11 RFPs we received, we narrowed it down to 3 finalists that we thought would be a good match for our district. All of these have extensive experience working with public school districts. They received great recommendations, not just from the ones that they provided, but in my contact other school communications people, what their experience has been. And looking at the cost of those, the most expensive of the 3 is $30,000 for 2 years. And that includes the website design, the setup, and then also the migration of our current content. And it also includes a mass communication system along with it. And just for reference, we pay about $4,410 for our current mass comm system. So that would just be rolled into the website. And that allows just a more efficient use of communicating. You get a one-stop shop to get things posted on the website, out through social media, and then also emailed to families and texted and a phone call. So I wanted to give the board this kind of just brief update first before I contacted the finalists, but the next steps would be to reach out to those and then have them come in and set up a demonstration time for not just myself and Mr. Henry, but also some principals and some of the AAs at the building who would actually be using the system as well, not just myself. Some of the issues that they have had currently is that the system is very difficult to use or they don't have access to use. So we want to fix that moving forward, and their input would be very valuable. So depending on how quickly we can get the demos arranged, our intent is to afterwards share a more in-depth review of the vendors, including like slides of their features, what this could look like for our actual website, just a much more visual presentation by myself so that you can get a sense for what this would mean for our district. And we did want to do that with the communication committee before bringing a recommendation forward to the board on a specific vendor to utilize. Just for reference, all the finalists indicated that they could keep to our timeline of beginning the process in July of 2025 and then having like a soft launch for staff only in December and then a full launch in January when it would be kind of more of a downtime and parents could have more of a ability to transition to a different platform. So yeah, just after having reviewed these RFPs and seeing some of the features that are available right now that we don't currently have available to us, I'm very excited about how this is going to increase our efficiency, our effectiveness, and our reliability in terms of communicating with families electronically through the mass communication system, our website, and then also it would help with social media.
Without too many specific questions, okay, just go ahead.
Oh, just I want to make sure that the websites are able to be seen on mobile devices easily because some websites don't transfer as well, and that we have translation abilities that it can go into all the different languages.
The responsive design and the ability to translate were 2 of the features that were key on our RFP, and the finalists that we chose, and the one of them has a greater ability to translate mass communications than some of the others, which was a thing that kind of helped them stand out. Right now, we kind of have a limited number of languages. I think it's 5 that we can translate to. And so we're looking to definitely expand that to make it easier for families when they get their communications to be in the language that they know and can understand right away.
Yeah, good question. As Mrs. Foreman has indicated, we will be reaching out to the members of the Communications Committee to set up a committee meeting. That is, we'll probably do some kind of little doodle thing to see what days work
Mrs.
best.
Potts will help with the doodling.
Yeah, and we'll present any of those proposals that appear viable, be it 2 or 3 or 4, to the committee. And once that date is established, it will be advertised on the board website, and we'll make sure everybody has plenty of notice so that you can come and ask your questions. We'll see that you get the information prior so that you have time to look at it and to see which of those, some of you having more experience than others with websites. I think this would be a good opportunity. So we're looking forward to getting that underway in the near future. So look, to be continued. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sanders, did I see you reaching for your microphone?
Yeah, when you were narrowing these choices down, you said was there a committee set up?
It was Mr. Henry and I for this first round. So for the second round, we're going to involve some other people. Given the volume of RFPs we received, and we did have a rubric that we used as we went through them, just to kind of look for some right away. The one cost, I think it was like $178,000 for a setup. That one, we looked at the pretty pictures, but that's not really a viable option for us, that high of a cost. So some of them were easier to rule out than others. But a lot of it was just kind of looking, did they meet the demands we want? Do they have a responsive design? Do they have the different languages? Are they going to support our ability to meet those accessibility standards? Not all of them were able to check all the boxes on really what I'm looking for in terms of making sure that we're able to do that, not just with these current standards, but if something changes down the road. So there were some that immediately were able to kind of rise to the top as having a lot of the things that we were looking for in terms of functionality. And then beyond that, I have years of being a graphic artist. I think I can make something look good. So I'm less concerned about the looks of it. I'm more concerned about what it can do on the back end as far as making this a product that staff feel easy, feel in ease of use, if they don't currently have. And then also that our families will notice a noticeable improvement in the messages they're receiving from us.
Okay. Look forward to the first outside of this meeting of the Communications Committee.
I look forward to presenting at that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Foreman. Thank you. Thanks, Mrs. Foreman. Okay, that brings us to Personnel Committee. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. You have before you the personnel report. Were any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below mentioned items.
So I would like 1D pulled out, please.
May we have a second first?
Yeah, we need a second.
Second, I would like 1D pulled out, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
I did have a question about 2A. Is that how we've traditionally paid that role rather than a stipend? We've done it hourly, or are we changing?
Correct. It has been an hourly for quite some time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so.
Was that a motion to remove B?
No.
It wasn't. Okay.
No, she was just asking about B. It's D, like dog, that's been.
D?
Uh-huh. Am I right?
1D.
D as in dog.
As in dog, like wolf.
Understood. I got it.
Was that a motion, Mr. Sanders?
That was, of course, a motion, Mr.
And was there a second?
He requested to be pulled out. Yeah.
So we're going to vote on the original motion, or is there any questions?
Right. Are there questions? Now we can vote on 1A through C and 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're just pulling out D for this vote. Are there any votes to the contrary? Okay, hearing none, that part can be considered unanimous. Now, item 1D, which is the elementary librarian. We're voting on that separately.
So we have to have discussion, do we not?
Is there discussion?
Well, of course there's discussion, Mr. Robinson. You're the chair of the committee. I'd love to discuss this with you.
Well,
what was the point? Well, golly. Help me understand the imminent need for an elementary librarian. I guess I'm just trying to understand what their role and purpose is in the elementary level. And it's not because I'm against it, as some will assume, maybe around this table. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions there. But tell me what the purpose is of the librarian at the elementary level. What are they going to be doing?
So this came up it was brought to the personnel committee at our last personnel committee back this fall. We had an in-depth presentation as to exactly why we felt that this was needed. Basically in the conversations, Mrs. Kendrick, our library chair, who's our high school librarian, has been overseeing the 4 libraries as well as the high school since the previous elementary librarian oversight, who was also teaching 6 periods a day, had left the district. So we kind of tried that method. We, in the process, had 2 library paraprofessionals leave the district. We hired 2 new, fine, wonderful library paraprofessionals who have come in as well. We've also added a little bit of time every day to those library paraprofessionals, but lacking that certified person to oversee and work in those 4 libraries is really, it's been very challenging for the library team. So getting that feedback and considering the consolidation of two catalogs, the library catalogs at both Indian Rock and East York, we felt it was time to move forward with this recommendation.
Cool. So that's the reason behind it. Let me go back.
That was one of the reasons behind it.
Well, but let me go back to my question. What are they doing? What are they teaching? Not having been in school for quite a number of years, and to be honest with you, if I go into Martin Library, it doesn't look like the Martin Library that I used to go into. So what are they teaching and what are they doing?
So she is going to focus on the intermediate schools as far as instruction goes. She's one person, so she's not going to be at all 4 schools every day. Obviously, that's not going to be feasible. So she's actually going to be developing curriculum in the next couple of months. And once she gets started to focus on elementary, she'll focus mostly on literacy skills as well as informational skills, such as can you tell fact and fiction when you look at a source? How do you find good information? Things that are more practical in today's world as far as information and as far as reading comprehension, finding authors, different types of genres, things like that, that also support the literacy skills that our ELA teachers teach every day.
All right, I'm confused. So they're teaching the same thing as the ELA teachers or something different than the ELA?
Different than that. It's really that information literacy piece that currently is not being done as robustly as it should be doing.
What does information literacy mean?
Yeah, so being able to, one of the standards or some of the standards that we need to have in play are really looking at a piece of information, whether it's an article, whether it's something that the kids find online, how to find a good source, how to do research, using not just internet, but using books as well. So using a variety of sources to research a topic and then how do you find your best source. I'm not a certified librarian, so I don't know if I could speak to it in the depth that one could, but that's something that's really lacking right now because we're focusing on the STEM skills in the specials. We're focusing on reading comprehension in the reading classes. That information literacy piece is not.
How do you measure that we're lacking that?
It's part of the Pennsylvania standards.
I know, but how do you measure that we're lacking it? You made the statement we're lacking it.
I'm relying on our library chair and our fine librarians to tell me.
How do they measure it then?
It has not been taught to our students recently in the last couple of years.
So how do we know they don't know it? In other words, what is the measurement?
I don't have a specific measurement.
So we're going to spend almost $100,000 for something that you're saying we're lacking, that we don't know what the measurement is of it.
I'm relying on the expertise of our librarians and to have made that recommendation.
It's not squaring with me, obviously. So I'm not.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't quite understand.
We talked about this at the personnel committee. And
I know. I got it. I'm not on the personnel committee. I'm only on the communications committee, so I wasn't able to get to that meeting. But Mr. Robinson, maybe you can help me understand. Were you given a background of how they measure the teaching abilities of a librarian and what we're missing?
I did not ask those questions, Mr. Sanders, because I trust the administration to make proper recommendations. And I would also add that a librarian, I can't see the downside of a librarian.
I don't know whether there's an up or downside. I'm just being told we're
when we were in school, we had librarians.
Well, when we were in school, we had lots of books too.
Yeah, we still have books in the library.
I haven't seen my kids come home with many.
And I would argue that the parameters of literacy have changed greatly over the years.
So
have they not?
Define what a librarian is adding to the equation.
Helping our students master effective communication, which I'm given to understand is a sadly neglected skill in many schools throughout our country.
Is that what your librarian taught you?
Oh, absolutely.
They did?
Yeah.
What was your librarian's name?
Mrs. Shoemaker.
Nice. And she was a good communicator?
She was a great communicator.
Beautiful. I can see
she
where you
taught me a love of literature.
I think we can call the question.
I'd be happy to if my colleague would.
Yep, let's.
I just don't see. You're saying we're lacking it. I don't know what measurement we're using to show we're lacking it.
I remember from one of the meetings I went to with the paraprofessionals that the paraprofessionals of the library mostly are part-time, and
Correct.
so that was leaving the library understaffed.
Correct, and there currently is no, I would say there's no instruction going on, formal instruction during that time for our students. Our librarians are keeping them active and engaged. They're doing book check in, check out. They may read a story to them, but they are not certified professionals providing any sort of instruction during that time period every 6 days for our students.
So then do the elementary schools have library as a special?
They do.
But they're not really getting the same level of instruction that they might get in PE or in...
Because they don't have a certified teacher.
They don't have a certified teacher in that space.
And we have tried for, I'm not sure exactly when in the past the decision was initially made to remove the elementary librarians. I wasn't here at that time. But since I have been here, that has been something that comes up repeatedly as a gap in our schools from our staff. I hear that a lot from our principals, from our paraprofessionals, from our teachers, and as well as from our library chair, Mrs. Kendrick, who I am essentially relying on for her recommendation as I've been working with her on the transition since when Mrs. Lapp resigned till today.
And it's one librarian for 4 schools right now.
Correct.
It's a bargain.
I will say, as the parent of a current first grader, and I'm curious if this is the experience in Indian Rock and East York right now, where they do have library as a special, but all she's doing is going in every 6 days and picking out a pretty book. And there's nothing being taught. She doesn't know where to go to find things. She doesn't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction. Is that sort of what 3 through 5 is experiencing as well? Just kind of go in, you get a book every 6 days?
Correct. I would hope that by 3 to 5 they know the difference. But yes, correct. There is a paraprofessional there that's just doing book check-in, book check-out, and maybe reading a story, depending on what they're doing. Mrs. Kendrick has been providing them with some activities to do, with some different things to occupy the students' time with some of that educational piece. But they are part-time paraprofessionals who are also checking in and checking out books for several hundred students a day, as well as any of the other clerical pieces that need to go along with them as well as sometimes covering lunch duty and things like that as
and
well.
purchasing books for the elementary schools right
Mrs.
now.
Kendrick has been doing all of that.
Right.
For the high school and the 4 elementary schools as well. And I can tell you, like, one of the things that came up through the consolidation process, I started questioning, how many books do we have? How much space do we need in this library to warehouse? What is a reasonable amount of books and inventory? And finding just are we keeping a good watch on that inventory? Are we doing inventory of our collections frequently enough? And we are not, because we don't have the staff to oversee that process. So that's something that Mrs. Kendrick and I have been working to speed up, to Band-Aid, to bring in some extra support. But in reality, through that process of me working closely with Mrs. Kendrick, came to my attention that it was time to request an extra librarian and a librarian for the elementary schools.
I would say additionally, certainly at the intermediate level, foundational research skills are taught in the library. I know, going back to when I was a parent of a child that age, that was a very basic and important thing that he received at that level, and it was through the librarian.
So I would hope
moving forward as we assess these positions. I'm not trying to micromanage, but I heard research skills. I heard from the chair communication skills. I haven't heard a job description. I just, if I'm going to make a hire, I'd at least want to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what the measurement is. So hopefully maybe the chair can take this to heart. You'll ask those questions moving forward because we're spending taxpayer dollars and not just implicitly trusting that we need something. There's a difference between a need and a want. So anyway, that's all I got. I can't tell whether I'm for it or against it, but because I don't quite understand exactly what's being taught, I'm confused, but I'm easily confused.
Okay, so we are voting
Before
on.
we conclude,
Oh, Mr. Robinson.
I would just like to thank Mr. Sanders for his suggestion. I appreciate
You are
it.
very welcome. I'm a wealth of them some days.
Okay.
I can actually up the ante on Mr. Sanders' suggestion, if I might. And for our part in academic standards and curriculum, it might benefit all of us to step back just for future agenda items for my collaborators in the administration to look back at all of the different, to use our curricular content management system to step back and look at where media literacy is currently positioned across grades and courses and things of that nature might help us all kind of orient ourselves. I don't want to live in a post-truth world. I think we're on the edge of living in a post-truth world, and I think being able to navigate both electronic and other reference materials. I know Mr. Sanders' experience, legal research is a really, really important skill, and it's something that y'all get training in, and other people don't know how to do it. And you know the difference between a good site and a bad site.
How about you just Google it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know based on that remark that you know exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for item D, A1D. Are there votes to the contrary?
I don't think enough information's been provided. I'm a no.
Are there any other votes to the contrary? So that can be 1 no and 7 yeses.
And before I conclude my report, I may be able to recognize Sarah Iacchini as the new Assistant Director of Special Education. Is Ms. Iacchini still with us? Yes. She is approaching the mic, and she will inform me if I pronounced her last name properly.
Hi, welcome.
That would help. There we go. Yes, thank you. Yes, Sarah Iacchini, like zucchini. I just want to take a brief moment just to thank the board very much for their approval and to be given this opportunity to work in York Suburban School District. I'm incredibly excited to bring my knowledge of special education and administration to the district and to work with an administrative team that has already welcomed me with open arms. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
And before we conclude, oh yes, a round of applause. Sure, Ms. Iacchini can take it. We have a number of retirements that represent 93 years of service to this district, teaching service. Carla Lowe, Carol Shearer, Jennifer Diller, and Janice Barshinger. We'll miss them all greatly. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Robbins.
What?
If I could interrupt, we did have one other of our, actually our new librarian at the elementary school. She is here. She came in. After,
she is.
And I missed her with all of the crowd that we have. So Mrs. Wyrick, if you want to come on up and say hello, I have Betsy Wyrick here, our new elementary librarian.
Mrs. Wyrick, welcome. I'm sure I pronounced that name properly, did I not? Thank you.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm also excited. I'm transferring from a district in Maryland, and I can answer many of your questions, Mr. Sanders, maybe at another time. But I have assessments, I have curriculum, and can show the benefits of having a librarian in the elementary schools.
I think that's a perfect topic for Dr. Sullivan's presentation.
Yeah. So we'll calendar you in the next couple of months.
Looking forward to it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
And that concludes my report. Doesn't it, Dr. Lorfin? Okay, very good.
Is there property finance?
We did not meet in December, so there's no update.
Okay, they do have a meeting coming up next Tuesday, the 21st.
That's correct.
Okay, in this very room. LIU report, Mrs. Fryrick?
Yes, you have before you the highlights from the LIU board meeting held January 7th, 2025. Keeps you kind of abreast of what is going on out there at the LIU. There is no report from the Joint Operating Authority. We only meet 4 times a year, so our reports are few and far between. And then the next report of mine, the York Adams Academy report, I am pleased to report that for our graduation next week, we will have 12 York Suburban graduates who have all indicated they are going to be at the actual graduation itself. And we are actually concerned about whether we will have enough space in the auditorium at the York Learning Center for all of the graduates who are going to show up and all of the family and friends that they usually bring with them. So if you're interested in going, please let me know. You're welcome to come. It's at 7 o'clock on the 22nd. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong. You have just recently been re-elected to lead both of those organizations that you represent us.
Yes, it is my pleasure to do that.
Yeah, so well done. Congratulations. We know we're represented well.
Thank you.
For agreeing to take on those leadership roles. Thank you. Mr. Robinson, is there a legislative update this evening?
Yes, there is, Madam President. We will all be pleased to know that Pennsylvania now has a reinvigorated Commission on Education and Economic Competitiveness. The Commission's work is currently described as internal, but we will look forward to the day when it is external. Representative Piers Schweier will chair the House Committee on Education. Representative Brian Cutler will serve as the minority chair. The Senate has yet to make committee appointments, so there is, as of now, no chair of the Senate Education Committee. That concludes my report. Unless there are questions. No questions? Okay.
Thank you. Is there a York Adams Tax Bureau report this evening?
There is no report.
Thank you. I have no report for the School of Technology. We will meet later this month and did not meet in December. At this point, we want to recognize and thank our visitors. I did mention earlier how much we enjoyed and appreciated having so many students here. That is genuine. We appreciate that and the efforts of their families to get them here. We're pleased that there's a foreseeable end to the disastrous last few weeks for them. You have links, board members, to upcoming events and to board meeting and committee meeting schedules. Please reach out if there are questions. And this brings us to the second opportunity for public comment. This public comment period is an opportunity to be heard by the board on agenda items or other items which may reasonably come before the board. Comments are to be directed to the entire board, not one individual board member, administrator, staff member, or to the audience. Comments will be timed and limited to 3 minutes or less. Please note, board and staff members will not normally respond to comments or questions during our meeting. When you hear your name called, please come forward. There's no need to state your name or address before sharing your remarks. Jonathan Allen, Spring Garden Township. Hi, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. I'm a resident of the district for approximately 20 years. This is my first school board meeting I've attended, the first time speaking. I've learned a lot. I appreciate everyone's patience here and the time you put into this. It's clear to me the effort you put in. So thank you very much for that. Speaking tonight as a parent, also as someone with a business background and business experience, I work for a corporation called Metso. We have an office in Spring-It's-Berry Township. We have approximately 350 employees. I'm the highest ranking and most senior employee in that facility. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the company, but certainly want to share my insights working for a multinational $5 billion in turnover company that has a large economic impact on this community. I've been involved in many projects in that organization with new facilities. We built to suit a facility here in York several years ago. 10 years after that facility was built, we did a total rebuild. We tore it, took it down to the studs and redid everything in the middle of the pandemic. Because one of the things we know as a large employer of 18,000 employees is that facilities matter to the talent that we get and the culture that we create. So really what I want to speak to is as we look at all these facility investments, whether we're looking at extensive renovations here, we're talking about a new pool, all of these things matter quite significantly. It's very hard to put a business case behind them. That's what I do for a living, and it is very difficult to do that, to put your business case on the culture you have. But I do know this, for every new facility, new factory, a new large repair center that we've invested in, they've all been very successful at attracting the right people. So I don't really know the agenda or what's behind Teachers Not Buildings. I haven't talked to anyone behind that slogan. But I will say from my perspective as a business leader, those are not mutually exclusive things. Talent follows good facilities, and that's extremely important. So that's one thing I definitely want to share. And then as we look at facilities, again, based on my experience, we do heavy equipment engineering. Things have a lifetime, and you reach the end of lifetime, and effectively things become obsolete. We do that with our own equipment, and you can't support that at a certain point in time. I think the pool's an excellent example of that. So we have outdated technology, which will become a money pit. There's pretty much no way to maintain anything forever because you will lose the expertise in the field. You won't be able to find people to come in. I think we're just seeing a little bit of that now. So we have to address those problems we have in front of us. We have to spend the money now to get us to a new long-term solution. So thank you very much for your time, and I thank you for what you do for this community.
Thank you. Melanie Bear, Spring-It's-Berry Township. Melanie Bear, Spring-It's-Berry Township. She's left. It is after 10 o'clock. Danny Barker, Spring-It's-Berry Township. Hello again.
I'd like to address an email that has been gone back and forth a couple times between myself and Director Hessen. And honestly, it was intended to be condescending. To be clear, it's addressing the way that you all handle committee, assignments, operation. There's a good bit of detail there. It's highly referenced and cited. It is, I believe, a resource to you. And I want you to know that if there's a deafening silence, I'm going to assume that my observations are 100% correct, which means that you are in a 100% violation of the governing rules that direct you how to operate. Ultimately, there will be consequences for that kind of behavior from a board of directors. So this isn't about malice. This is about doing what's right and doing it the right way. So if you respond to me, I expect you to respond with detail, not how you feel. I could care less how you feel. I expect, if there are errors in my observations, to hear from you. And your actions tonight in the vote are absolutely commendable. You did what was right tonight. There's no question about it. Thank you for that. Have a good night, folks.
Mary Beliveau, Spring Goodsbury Township. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I would first of all like to congratulate the students who stood up tonight to make sure that their swimming program would be able to continue. They did an excellent job. They really did. They were very articulate, and I commend them for it. But the elephant in the room right now is the $120 million building project that is unsustainable. A former board member, I'm going to repeat what I said before, once before, mentioned that a 2019 study was not feasible financially, let alone, yet this board voted in 23 for a $120 million project. And it goes up by the millions as you continue to be focused on that project and spending more of our tax money trying to sustain that. But in the meantime, this board has been totally irresponsible in budgeting taxpayer money for this school district. Totally irresponsible. They had no foresight in maintaining the buildings. You were just focused on that project, but you knew was not feasible, and you overlooked maintaining the buildings, and upgrading including the swimming pool, and putting budget aside in a responsible way to maintain these buildings. The issue is really clear. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure it out. And in my background being in education, and I did teach fifth grade, I think a fifth grader sitting on this board would be able to see clearly what the problem is. So I'm asking you tonight to reevaluate this $120 million project, reevaluate it, stop moving forward with our tax dollars to push it through and spending money on attorneys, architects, and continue to build millions and millions of dollars more on top of what the unreasonable project was, unsustainable project was before. And if it hadn't been for Attorney Sanders tonight, bringing that motion before, putting aside $300,000 for the swimming pool, if it hadn't been for him, this board would have been voting unanimous as it has done before. It was like a group thing. So I just urge you now to reevaluate and to responsibly budget from here on in.
That's your time, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lindsay Billett, Spring Garden Township. David Caputo, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Madam President, Dr. Krauser, board members. Just a few points. The first is regarding the kids and the families tonight that came in support of the swim program and the pool. I think if you put yourself in the shoes of a high school student, a lot of the things that are important to you at that time in your life are things that we don't remember now. But things like if you're on a swim team, having a pool to swim in and have your friends and family come and cheer for you, having your administrators come to your events, have social media posts and things like that happen throughout the district, acknowledge you and your teammates. That's their language. And up until a few days ago, none of that happened for these folks, for these kids. And I think, when we talk about the concept of communication being important, I think that this has been a good lesson learned of, even when you're trying to care for someone, and even if you do care for someone, if you don't do the things that they see, that they value as what they see as care for them, they're going to perceive it as that they're not being cared for. And so I think that's probably why you saw so many of them here tonight, is because those things didn't happen until just recently. So thank you tonight for your action, and also thank you for the things that have been happening here the last few days. But, I think that's why you've seen such a response. Secondly, in regards to the ongoing discussions with your college, and Dr. Krauser, maybe this is for you, there certainly seems to be a path to some kind of partnership with them for temporary and/or emergency pool use. And as some of the board members discussed, it seems like something they should be good partners about. I would urge not only an immediate short-term solution for the swimmers, tomorrow, next week, that sort of thing, but also, very importantly, to ensure that there's a long-term emergency backup plan for this team should there be another longer than a day or two issue in the pool, where instead of having to do a fire drill, they have an immediate place that they can go. And I'm out of time, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Rin Caputo. Gee, might you be related?
I'm getting giddy. It's late.
Okay. So a lot of what I had written tonight, I guess, doesn't necessarily apply anymore. But so I think I'll take my time to make these comments, and that is that much like many of the swim parents, we had not been paying as close attention to what was going on with the building proposals and the building projects. And certainly the situation that was thrust upon us forced us to put a magnifying glass on it. I've spent much of my free time in the past 2 weeks researching, educating myself, getting a better understanding of where that project stands currently. And to be honest, the school board videos, I went back and watched clips and minutes that I read, zoning board meetings that I read. The general sense I had was shock that this community has really just been spewing a lot of just hatred towards one another over a topic that I feel like should actually bring us together. Again, despite your political affiliation, educating our children should be all of our common purpose, I believe strongly. They are our future. I am greatly concerned that there is an element working behind the scenes. Just in looking at it myself, I feel that there is concern that there are community members who even took my own emails and tried to make them look like I was aligned with their ideals. I'm referring to the Teachers Not Building folks. And my great concern is that they are going to continue to delay and behave in a manner that is not what I would want for our children. And so I would say to this board, my hope would be that we figure out a way to come together as a community and speak to one another and come with action so that we can move forward with the intermediate school. And in my case, more importantly, move forward with the high school. Please, let's lay down the arms and open them to one another. That would be what I would advocate for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Dara? Nope. Christopher Geyer, Spring Garden Township? Hi, welcome, sir.
Who's tired? I tell you, it's been quite an interesting board meeting, and I first want to say thank you very much for your service and for the things that you do for this community. The job is not easy, and you raised your hand to take it. So let me first say thank you very much for all that you do to represent us. You could be with your families right now, but instead you're here having this much fun. So I appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Much of what's been said tonight, I think, we boiled that ocean, right? I'm very clearly here to talk more about the swimming pool. My father was Dick Geyer. He was here for 51 years as the head swimming coach. And we talked a lot about the amazing accolades that he had as a coach. But what we didn't talk about enough, I believe, is not the All-Americans, is not the unbelievable swims that we had for state championships and gold medals, right? It was the kid that finished fifth when he should have finished sixth. And it was that point that won the meet, right? It was not just the winning of the meet, right? But the rallying around that person from the team. Swimming brings forward so many different positive qualities in people, more than just winning. My dad always said, we build great character first and great athletes also. And this is, I think, something that we really need to consider, because as we talk forward about what we do with the pool, and I commend you all for your commitment to having a pool, right? But as we talk more about what that means, understand that what we are doing here, right, and what we're building here are kids, are character. This is what this community brings to these young people. And so I ask us to consider that in the ROI equation. I ask for us to consider, what does it mean to bring something forward to these kids that wouldn't otherwise be there, right? In building out this character. My dad mentioned before, he had his 6 Ps. Anyone who swam for him knows. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. We have before us a very significant problem, which we can put a Band-Aid on. But as many have spoken before, we also have the responsibility to understand what the proper planning is for the future and how we build the appropriate facility in order to continue this degree of excellence, which has been the icon of York Suburban for more than 50 years. And I thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Marilyn Geyer, Spring Garden Township. Hi, welcome.
I will tell you that a lot of what I was going to say has already been said over and over and over. What I will say is that all athletic programs are important, no matter what they are. It's a vital part of our students' education and addressing learning styles and self-esteem. Young athletes learn to budget their time, persevere, be on time, challenge themselves every day, and be part of a community that supports their efforts and dedication. A school district pool is not a luxury, it's a classroom. and it's also a necessity for aquatic education. Swim lessons for all ages, life-saving, aqua exercise, competitive swimming. Swimming is the one curriculum that may someday save a life. The swim team here at York Suburban, and believe me, I only know this because I've lived it for 52 years, put York Suburban on the map. We are known all over the state, and we're known nationally for our wonderful things that have happened for our kids here in swimming. Tonight, we had a lot of little kids, youngsters. We have over, apparently, 100 children enrolled in our TAC program. Don't they deserve a chance to continue what I feel my husband got started here? Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. And might I add, thank you for what you and your family have given to the school district. Thank you. Mary Hawkins, Spring Garden Township. Hi, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. I've heard several people, including a couple of board members.
I'm afraid they're not hearing you. Sorry to interrupt.
I've heard several people, including a couple board members, express that they feel the ruling from Spring-Gittsbury Township was unfair. And I propose the idea that perhaps Spring-Gittsbury Township was not just following their own rules and guidelines, but they were actually listening to members of their community voicing objections. For those at the township meetings, there was a parade of residents who will be most adversely affected by the building in their neighborhood, a building that, let's face it, will be shoehorned into the space plan. All the beautifully drawn up plans projected on screen of the proposed school and diagrams of perfectly orchestrated traffic in and out of the parking lot do not take reality into account. One, the building will be at odds with the character of the neighborhood and create more traffic jams. And two, there is no way people will adhere to the carefully planned traffic flow designed by the project engineers. School buses will be jockeying for room to get on their routes. Harassed and busy parents will be scrambling to drop off or pick up their children. Very few parents will obediently queue up in a long line of cars trying to spot their child. We all witness daily the relentless snarl of traffic and people rushing to keep up with life demands. There are two issues that look like major flaws. The building design is touted to be a state-of-the-art physical environment for current teaching methods. How will future school district leaders and board members address the new methods for teaching that arise in 10 years or less? Will we then have to abandon or tear down this new building to accommodate the most current education trends? I'm really curious about that. Instead of spending millions to build a new school, why not spend less to upgrade or update the existing two buildings? We're back to teachers, not buildings. We can't possibly keep up with the ever-increasing pace of change with new buildings every time trends shift. We need to address trends and change utilizing the resources and buildings we have. The second issue that looks like a major flaw in this building plan is that it will accommodate 700 students. With the growing population, how soon will the students outpace that number? What will we do at that point? Build yet another building? Where? Since you plan to abandon Indian Rock and tear down East York, what is your contingency plan for this scenario? Or have you considered that likelihood? If you have, what is your plan? And finally, we taxpayers again strongly request you step back from costly construction projects to consider other options that will not create such a hardship to the tax-paying base in this smallest school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Courtney Hendrickson, Spring Garden Township. Andrew Harold, Spring Garden Township. Jeff Kirsch. Michael Park.
I already said mine. Thank you.
Brian Platt. Yay. Oh, sorry.
Said I'm getting giddy.
Hi, sir. Welcome.
So, all right. Good evening. Thank you for taking my comment this evening. I want to start. I'm glad you actually recognize the schools that have stepped up to help the swim team during this trying time. When it comes to swimming, at least in the YIAA, you can't spell YIAA without YS. I wanted to comment specifically after the agenda item because I wanted to see how the discussion played out, because what I see this whole incident with the pool is something of what we talk about in medicine and other things as a sentinel event. You have an item here that, back in the fall, Dave Coombs told you this pool had only had a service life of 30 years, was going on 60 years. And I can guarantee Buddha was not the first person that told any administration or board in the intervening 30 years that was an issue. And I see the issues that have bubbled up with this. I see it is my concerns with the larger building projects and plans overall. Ray Dalio used to be the recently retired CEO of Bridgewater Associates. He used to talk about how an accurate understanding of reality is an essential foundation for any good outcome. When I hear the discussions and see where things are going, there are just some, kind of some basic things I'm really concerned of, that we're just not dealing with the reality that is in front of us. Your tax base is your tax base. You have a district that has some unique, geographic features. I-83 might as well be a river with choke points at Melrose Avenue, Queen Street, and Market Street. Yet you want to, build basically on one side of that. When you've got a high density project going out on the western extreme there near Regents Glen. We hear about, kind of some of the, when you talk about these buildings, when these come in, one of the questions I'm concerned is, okay, well, right now, what is your cost to operate per square foot in each of your buildings? Does everyone know that number? What does that number look like for this new building coming in? Because once you build it, you got to feed the monster. You want to talk about, making a smart classroom and stuff like that. Okay, great. What's the service life on all the equipment in those classrooms? How big is your IT department going to have to be then, among your custodial staff and the cafeteria staff and what have you? Those are my concerns. Your tax base only increases as assessments go up. You're not building new projects. Some of these other schools have built new buildings. They've, in addition to the assessments, they've built new developments have gone up. So what I would close with in the last 10 seconds with is basically what the Navy's been telling me for a few years now. You've got to get real and get better. This has to be the board that stops the cycle, with it, no matter what direction you go within the buildings.
Thank you. Lisa Platt, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So I'm here as a former TAC parent, and I hope that one day she'll be back in swim team. However, I'm here to also talk about what any team should mean to the school, what it teaches our children, because that's what we're here for, to teach our children. What my children get from being on their teams is structure, stability, routine, socialization, better mental health. They get exercise. They get team spirit and team building. We get to build our village of parents, friends. They build their whole village when they become part of a team, and that is ever expanding. So what that has brought to our family, the students, you ever expand as a parent once your kids get into sports. YS has a swim legacy in Coach Geyer. I attended here from 92 to 96. He was a coach then, and he brought the records, he brought the championships, but there is that legacy to keep up with YS Swim. A concern I see as a former swim parent who hopefully will one day again be a swim parent is that our kids are going to all different schools, and that takes time. You've heard that from the students, but also the working parents. Where is their transportation when we are going to 5 different schools? And we have multiple kids in multiple sports, because not every kid has 3 kids that just swim. So how are we managing that for our parents? The parents need the support of the school district to provide transportation for our students in sports. Also, Mr. Sanders brought this up already. How can we as a community help to raise money, help to come together to build and repair the pool? Not only the pools, how can we come together as a community to also help with building the new projects in the schools? What can we do? Has anybody addressed that with the community to ways to get funds to help the district? So I'm just here to say, let's teach our kids to advocate. Let's encourage the sports. Let's keep building the community and teaching our kids what to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Sanders, Spring Goodsbury Township. Good evening again.
Hi. I just want to say I'm delighted. I'm so delighted that Mr. Allen and Mrs. Caputo brought up our Teachers Not Buildings. And it's an opportunity for us to begin to talk about who we are and who our opposition is. What we would like to accomplish is for us to come to the table. We have asked in the past for the administration and the school board, come to the table, show us. We welcome. It's not that we don't want to spend any money. We just want to know where the money is going. We don't want to continue to have the price go up. So for me, for them to come tonight, for us to see what they feel, it's very, very important. Mr. Allen gave me his email. I would say, let us get together. Let us hear what you have to say, and you can hear what we have to say. I'm not all right, and you're not all wrong. That's what happens when a community can get together and talk about things. So my suggestion is that we get together very, very soon. Anytime this week or next week. Let's sit down. Let's figure it out together. I know we can do it. And I know with people that stood here tonight and talked, there's a lot of different things that people have their strengths and their weaknesses. So we have many people in this district. People say things to me and I'll say, I never thought of that. So this is a big opportunity for us as a district and as two different ways of seeing things to come. Let's talk about it. Let's come to a consensus that's the best for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy Schaefer, Spring Garden Township. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. What incredible spirit and support from the York Suburban community, swimming community tonight was just remarkable, truly remarkable. And I'm happy that they all got to witness democracy in action this evening. So my other comments tonight reference the board meeting of February 26, 2024, when a threat was first made and directed to the school district and the school board. It began with a tax increase scare tactic, something to the effect of to the school board was likely to vote to go to the maximum 6.4 increase this July for the 24-25 taxes. In fact, the tax increase was significantly lower. It was 3.5%. This rate is yet another validation of the excellent bond rating York Suburban received last year, once again due to their historically conservative approach. Quoting from the same public comment thread with respect to the building projects, and I quote, "For purposes of full disclosure, if you continue to plow forward with these plans, this is what our group intends to do. Number one, a group of residents will be contacting both Springettsbury and Spring Garden Township to file issues that each project will be creating. We'll use any administrative procedures and hearings that are available to slow down any groundbreaking. Number two, we are currently seeking legal counsel to file petitions in York County Circuit Court to ask school board directors to be removed for fiscal mismanagement. We will file numerous freedom of information requests seeking additional information, and at the very least, we will bog you down with paperwork, hearings, and answering subpoenas so that East York cannot proceed." And yes, that impacts the high school renovation. It pushes it back. And this group has made it perfectly clear that they do not support a new pool. Based on this threat and subsequent actions, I made a request at the March 11th and the September 9th, 2024 board meetings, and I'm resurrecting that request again tonight. Although there are voices here this evening that stand behind these threats, and they're costly threats, and believe themselves to be experts, there are many who are not here and believe that school board directors and administrators are undeserving of these threats. These taxpayers do not welcome the utilization of their tax dollars in this capacity and desire to know the ongoing dollar figure associated with utilization of their tax dollar, with the time and money being spent on the follow-through actions of the February 26 threats. In the spirit of transparency, I'm asking the board and administration to please consider reporting this line item separately at each monthly board meeting so it's available for all to see the cost of the disinformation campaign's actions and also recorded on the Right to Know log on the district website. Oh, and please note there are many states and counties that close schools on election day and their school service polls. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Schoaf. Okay. That concludes the second opportunity for public comment. Anything from the board?
Well, yes, Madam President, but I will defer to Dr. Hessen.
Just a quick one. I got the chance to volunteer with the 6th grade team at BizTown today, and they did such a good job. And I just wanted to commend the team and the students. And I think they're going back tomorrow and Wednesday as well, which I won't be able to see, but they did a really great job today.
Oh, good to know. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Some of you may remember the last meeting of last year in which Mrs. Soskin made a recommendation to bring goods for those in need. Now, the holidays have subsided, and it's easy for us to forget the goodwill and good cheer of that time. Mrs. Soskin? Toothpaste?
Yes.
And more chicken soup?
Yes. I ordered the deodorant and underwear on Amazon.
Good for you.
You know, that brings up, we should get a box, and for anybody who wants to bring items for the food pantry, the Impact Foundation takes care of. If anybody would like to make those donations, we'll make that happen for
our next meeting.
That would
Thank
be
you
great.
for.
And I go over there every Thursday as a volunteer, so I can take it.
So Mrs. Turner can be our pack mule. Thank you. Thank you for that. See, it's late. I'm sorry. Unless there's something else for the good of the order, we can stand adjourned. Thanks very much. Oh, wait, were you?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Okay.